Good evening, everyone. Good morning and also good afternoon, depending on which place of the world you live in. But welcome, everyone, certainly those on the live stream, especially welcome because you can have the privilege of joining us if you would like. One of the benefits with the live stream is we have an interaction that allows us to have a discussion on the topic. Of course, this week, Thursdays, as you know, is the Atheism and Agnosticism under scrutiny. So we are looking to seriously scrutinize the atheist and agnostic position in terms of their worldview. And we want to do this with a very heartfelt, genuine, open discussion. We're very keen to understand your position and why you believe atheism or agnosticism is true. And we are, of course, being Christians here, would love to then discuss that to show why we believe the Christian worldview is the true position and why we personally do not believe that atheism or agnosticism is a true view. It's certainly a view that many hold. We know there are millions of people that hold this view, and they have some good, valid points to their view in some respects. We will definitely respect that. But when we start looking into the detail, I think this is where we get some interesting challenges. And so much so that we actually came up with 3 main challenges that we think really does come to the crux of challenging this particular worldview. Our 3 main challenges. Let's just go over them in case you've not heard them before. The first one is to provide evidence that the source of the universe comes from does not come from intelligent design. The atheists believe that there is no intelligent designer behind the universe. It comes from some other means. There are arguments to what that is. Big Bang is part of that process, but it's not the source. It's a more of a universal source, and the arguments are being mainly banded around where something, even though it's not intelligent, whatever that may be, Richard Dawkins comes up with probably the most interesting one of something coming from nothing, but whatever that something is or close to nothing is not something that we personally would call intelligent design. Now, I don't know why they go that way, but that's the route they take. Let's listen to that argument. That's the big challenge. We struggle with that for a number of reasons, and we have been for many weeks putting out a very good case, we feel, to why that just isn't logically rational and coherent. We have, of course, we'll back that up with why we believe there is intelligent design. Now, as Christians, you'll probably think we're just going to go down because we believe in God, There's our creator. That's why we don't believe there is the atheist position. But what is interesting, it doesn't stop there. We also have complementary evidence from a scientific point of view. Now, for many atheists, they may not even be aware. There's some will, of course, because they may have seen or heard the arguments, but we're going to put them over as well because they are very, very significant, very powerful arguments that science itself does actually point towards intelligence. And we're going to take you through that process to demonstrate why we come to that conclusion as well. And that's going to be very interesting. Challenge number 2, evidence to the source of morality. Again, if there is no God, where does morality come from? Atheists out there, agnostics, where is morality? What is the source of morality? We haven't had anybody yet, I don't think, or we don't think, that's really come forward with a very, very strong argument to the source of morality. The only ones we've heard that comes to any kind of level of impression on us is that it's sort of self-contained within human society. But of course, the problem with that is it becomes more subjective than objective. And one of the atheist view is there is no objective morality, but then there is a collection of issues that come with that. And we're going to just highlight those, because it's really going to make people think, I think, that if we start to realize that if we're going to go down a road of purely considering subjective morality, it doesn't give us much hope for mankind, I don't think, and we'll show and demonstrate why that is. And then just lastly, because it's pivotal to both our beliefs, but also it does stare directly in the face of atheism, and that's our belief in Jesus Christ, because he wasn't just an individual that we recognize in history, but the fact he is also someone that is particularly significant. A couple of reasons why is because the record, the history shows that he was someone that died, was buried, and then came back to life. He was resurrected. And that is a very powerful statement. That's the challenge we're now making as our challenge number 3, is the evidence of that. So atheists, if you believe that you don't think that's true and that Jesus was not this person who did come back to life, we're happy and keen to listen to your argument or your view to why you believe that. So those are the 3 main challenges. We definitely are looking forward to any atheists and agnostics that want to come online and share their position. So one of the nice things that we have been doing, and we'll start with challenge number 1, was we were building a case based mainly on science as well as a degree of logic, which will take us back to scriptural basis. But what was really, really interesting is because atheism puts such a dependency on science, you would think that science is just going to support very strongly the atheist position. But the more and more we look into this, and more scientists themselves have been looking into it, more importantly, they come to the conclusion, not to say that they believe in God necessarily, some do, of course, but the fact that intelligent design is the most logical conclusion. So this is the piece that really, for me, is very, very powerful from this perspective in this challenge number 1, that the science itself isn't excluded from this discussion. And in fact, it's one of the things that both atheists and Christians do share. We happily accept and believe in science, and science is, of course, a very powerful tool. We do appreciate its limitations. We do have to highlight science doesn't answer everything, but it does answer a lot. And what it does answer is understanding this world, the structures, processes, the way the world works the way it does, the physicality of it. So, from biology, physics, and chemistry, really the main sciences do reveal a great deal about the world. Now, interestingly, one of those is linked to this evidence, because this first evidence of the source of the universe stems around what do we know about the source. So what we have been going through in previous weeks is explaining that the source is relating to how life originates. Now, what we do know, and any atheist agnostic would agree, in fact, most people of any persuasion would agree, that structure of life starts from the basic molecular cell. Now, we know that there is, to begin with, a single cell structure. What we have now discovered is that single cell is vastly complex. It's not just some simple cell. And it also has many elements to it. And more importantly, many dependencies. And the reason why I say more importantly is because these dependencies are required to transition from a single cell to organic life. And the process of that is taking a single cell and transitioning to a more complex structure of multiple cells that form together through those elements that then create life. As we know it, we have evidence of it because we know single cells exist. We know every single living organism is made up of cells. The science, the chemistry, the microscopes down, investigating into the cell structures have all confirmed without any exception that is what life form is made out of. The problem we've then got is where the source of that single cell is really like the source or the origin of life, which I think is a really, really important question. And then the second element to that is, which is really a big challenge I mentioned last week, was, which I'm going to now expand a little bit more on, and that was how do we transition from a single cell life form to a complex life form? Because until it's complex, it cannot create what we call true life, because life, as we know, all life forms are made up of a huge number of molecular cells that are structured in a very organized way, which have a very high level of dependency between them, which is absolutely essential for life. It's not just me taking, like, I don't know, 1 million cells in my hand and just chucking them at a wall or whatever and throwing them on the floor and just expect life to appear. There's a bit more to it. In fact, there's a lot more to it. And the basic premise is that there are these what we call dependencies. Now, the chemistry of this, the simplicity of this, just not getting in any way too deep, I'm not really able to do that anyway, because I'm no chemist, is just to say that structure, which is formed of protein, amino acids, sugars, lipids, etc., these fatty acids, that's constructed. The big piece, the key piece here, and all that structure is what we call the DNA, RNA. This is the the supercomputer bank of code that is used to create life, and it's that code that's absolutely key. And as we know, it's been confirmed without a question of doubt, exists in all cells, and it's huge. Now, one of the challenges that if you want to talk about life, and one of the challenges that was mentioned last week was, can anyone prove one of two things? And this is where I'm going to extend this one little extra step. Last week, we talked about transition, going from single cell life form to multiple life forms. Let me add one extra piece. Can someone just simply create that single cell molecular cell in the first place? As it turns out, I thought, oh, surely somebody's done that at least. No, apparently no one has. And where that is important comes in two ways. The first way is we don't have evidence of how a single cell can form into or be created, let alone transition into multi-cell structures that create life. So it's even the very origin of a single cell we have an issue with. So that's the first major problem. The second thing is, when we talk about the creation of that single cell to then be formed into any kind of life, organic life, this is a real fundamental discovery, which I think is really huge, because the atheist argument is this, that what we do as Christians is, where we don't have an answer to prove or explain life and how life forms, we call it the God gap, or the gap of, or whatever, gap of creation. There's various terms, basically saying we just put God in that gap to say, well, we just say it's God that creates the gap, but without proving or explaining how that's possible. It's just like a cop-out. And what they say instead is the way that you will get a single life form into any kind of true life form with multiple cells is by simply giving time over that structure. So in other words, leave it for 1 billion of years. Somehow, over billions and billions of years, it will eventually turn into a life form. Now, here's the big discovery. A single life form, with the way it's structured, cannot actually connect, hook its essential dependencies to form the structure in billions of years. It needs to do this in a very short period of time, and it gets even better. It's not even days or years, it's hours. So if a cell structure is left alone in hours and it's not has the formations and connections to form completely, the cell will not survive. This is basic chemistry. So this is one of the big issues that I just found, is you can't give it billions of years, because that makes it even more problematic, because cells just simply wouldn't survive on their own over billions of years to even have the random chance that somehow life would form. So it's not even a genuine argument to just say structures or life forms can just simply be just randomly pulled together in some way to create life. So that's the first real big issue we got. We know with the Big Bang, one of the issues we got this is where we're talking about random evolutionary processes of non-life forms, inanimate objects that could somehow work and orchestrate some form of life form. Now, the reason why we say that is even more problematic is, where do we have any examples of it? No, we don't. We have 0 examples, and there's no way anything has come forward to prove that something that hasn't got cell structure, life form, could even start. So some kind of evolutionary process at the moment simply doesn't exist as a way of proving life can be formed by that process. There isn't anything out there. Do prove me wrong, atheist, because I've done a lot of research on this. And I've come up with zip, and don't take my word for it. That's probably not worth much. But the scientists, the ones that have been putting the time and effort into it, have come to this conclusion. And I'm really, to be honest, I'm just really quoting them. That is the state of play as of today. You know, 2024, we still have no evidence. So then you've got to ask yourself, what do we have? What we do have is, as I said, the sophistication of life. And I think there was a guy called, a scientist called Mayer, and there's a few other scientists that basically says, and quote, that only intelligent design can logically explain how life forms can exist and be formed the way they do, with the level of complexity, the level of dependency, and all the other challenges. The great thing about that is it just eliminates randomness. It eliminates any kind of theories around just happening without some kind of intelligence behind it. So it doesn't matter whether you believe in God. That's, in fact, a very separate argument. I would say if you're a scientist, you should be at least going down the road to say everything points to intelligence. It points to a designer. And that's the point. We can go down the road to take the next step to say, okay, if we do believe there is intelligent design, why can't then we at least consider there is a God? And that's one of the great things that we are trying to challenge here. That is an interesting title for someone, Agnostic Christian. I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
We have a couple of people in the backstage, just so others are aware.
I just spotted, yes.
Agnostic Christian, Ajay, can you please quickly, briefly introduce your worldview in the private chat? This is the private chat. Let me. Oh, okay. Yeah, please briefly introduce your worldview. I am an interesting person. Bring me on stage.
Sure you are.
That's okay. Ajay, please, can you please describe your worldview here, Ajay?
While people are just typing in and introducing themselves, one of the things I wanted to just add very quickly is if we don't believe there is intelligent design, one of the arguments is, of course, also that the universe somehow created all the things we see. We just haven't got to finding out how far we need to travel to find the source of that universe, which is a bit interesting. But that does lead me to one extra question, which did come up in a very good debate. I can't remember who was famous people behind it, but I think it could have even been Richard Dawkins, was that if you've believed that the universe created you, then the simple question is, who created the universe? So it still begs the question, the source. Now, what we're saying is, whatever that source is, you want to call it the universe, is it more likely to be something that has intelligence behind it or something that doesn't? And I think this is where that's got to be a question that we would definitely invite you to answer first, and then we can take it from there. Well, Agnostic, we will bring you on. Now, we would just very quickly to remind everyone why we do this is that we have a few policies in taking people on. One is that to be respectful. We don't accept any foul language or any ad hominems or any kind of slanderous comments, please. If you're going to be very open-minded but respectful and friendly, then no problem at all. If we hear anything contrary to that, then unfortunately we will have to remove you from the stage. So Agnostic, I'm going to give you a chance to speak, and if you can be nice and cordial and let me know what your views are. I'm very interested with your title to begin with, so maybe that's
it's a bit this sounds right to me, the solid Muslim, liquid atheist, along those lines. So yeah. Let's see if it is J-Bon as a matter of fact.
Yes, good one. Maybe.
Hello.
Hi, Agnostic Christian.
How are you all?
Good. How you doing?
Errol, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Errol, I've watched a lot of your videos on YouTube.
J-Bon is coming through. J-Bon is coming through. You're doing well with your Scottish accent there, J-Bon.
How's that what it is?
Well, you know, English, Welsh, Scottish, we're all three in one, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice. Why are you doing this, J-Bon? Why?
Why don't you let people answer questions in Speaker's Corner?
I don't understand. Essentially, everyone I interact with, I have a cordial interaction. I let them speak. I speak.
Yeah.
We'll try to stay focused and so on. J-Bon, you are a Muslim. You need to be. I don't know why.
You know what an agnostic Christian is?
Not really.
But
Exactly.
you are J-Bon, and
it
you are a
doesn't make
Muslim.
sense, does it? It doesn't make sense.
Yes, you are a Muslim. What are you doing here?
And hopefully you're going to make sense.
Why don't you prove that Jesus is God?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
show us evidence.
Right. So if it's you, J-Bon, look, what we would say to you is very simply is we have many streams, and
I'm
these
not
streams
J-Bon.
That's fine if you don't want to. That's fine. But whatever it is, you know, we have different streams that cover different topics. We do go down the road, and we will be going down the road as when it's appropriate to cover why we believe what we believe. But this tonight is about atheism and agnosticism. So if that is what you want to talk about, then you're welcome.
The proof is in my title, agnostic. It says the first word is agnostic.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go by
agnostic Christian.
Yeah, I'm going to go by what you say, not by what your title is. So if you can come up with something that can make us interested in discussing this matter, then please do go ahead.
Well, it's you who's making the claim that Jesus is God.
It's not for tonight.
Yeah, but there should be clear-cut evidence. Errol, where's all the evidence? Where's the archaeological evidence?
J-Bon. Right, I can see what's going on here. J-Bon is a hurt person that when we asked for evidence for Abraham building Kaaba, he could not give. And since that time, he is really hurt and he is trying to show his...
Do I sound like I'm hurt, Errol? Do I sound like I'm hurt?
Do you sound like what?
Do you understand me?
Yeah, well, I hear you.
Where's the archaeological evidence?
Right. J-Bon,
where's the fossils? Where are the fossils?
Jabon, unfortunately, we need to really, you need to be interacting with us on a Wednesday. So apologies sincerely.
Why can't I talk? Why can't I talk now?
You can talk. You can talk all evening. All evening, certainly. Wherever you are, please keep talking. We'll try and see if we can get you help from someone. In the meantime, Ray, what do you think? Jabon is a Muslim.
It just simply has to be on the topic for tonight. That's just the way this is working. Don't
you believe people can become an agnostic Christian?
That's not. Yeah, we're not really want to discuss that. We just want to discuss if you are agnostic. Let us know why.
What does it mean to you, agnostic Christian? What does it actually mean to you?
I'm not really interested in answering that question, to be honest. So
exactly,
not exactly anything. Just not interested. You can put all sorts of weird titles. It doesn't mean we need.
Well, I didn't want to really talk to you, Ray. I wanted to talk to Arul. In Speaker's Corner, he never lets anyone speak on the mic. He always hogs the mic.
I've watched him on many videos of Speaker's Corner, and that's
it's actually quite embarrassing.
Oh, I would Jabon,
he doesn't even believe that Palestinian civilians are dying.
Jabon, it's lovely to speak to you, but we need to catch up on a Wednesday. Sincere apologies. Sincere apologies. We need to catch up on a Wednesday. You really need to stick with your worldview of Islam and challenge us.
Yeah.
Engage with us on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Otherwise, we'll take care.
Otherwise, he's just going to take all the time. And
we'll just catch you, and they're going to have to let you go because this is not the time and place for those discussions. So, yes, if you want to truly, genuinely talk about atheism and agnosticism, we are more than welcome on the stage. We have another person, atheist. I hate everything. It's a sad place to be if that's what you do. But if we're gonna. I don't know. Is this somebody from yesterday as well, Al? Do you know?
No. This is the gentleman from last week who ran out of data pack last time. So he's a gentleman who joined us last week.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you on atheist. And as I said, if you want to bring forward your view of why you believe atheism, we welcome that. And then we ask that if you do that in a friendly manner, then everything is fine. So we're going to let you on. Do introduce yourself and let us know what you would like to discuss.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Mr. Arul. I think, can I just start it off from where we actually left last Wednesday? Is that okay with you, or do you want me to start it off like kind of freshly? Because we know you were actually talking about the vaccines last week, and I didn't get a chance on that to speak on that. You just mentioned that vaccinations do kill. So do you want me to bring out that topic first and continue from there, or shall I just start it off from the evolution directly?
Ray is the chairman. I think Ray has set the topic. Which topic did you want to engage on, Ray, today? Sorry.
Yeah. So, what can I call you, atheist? Have you got a name we can call you? I don't really want to call you atheist.
Just call me like asteroid or something, because I just go on the side of evolution. Just call me asteroid or something. I just don't want to reveal out my name. So please,
you can give a fake name is fine, as long as I can address you. So
call me David or something.
Sorry?
Just call me David or something. That's fine.
David, let's call you David. That's fine. And David, what specifically, rather than it sounded like you had a collection of things there, is there something specifically and more importantly, singly, that you can just bring up that we can discuss or that covers this topic?
Yeah, sure. Mr. Arul had actually spoken on the topic of vaccinations last week. So I didn't get enough chance, last time, because we actually are at the end of the session. So would you like to discuss on that, or would you like to start a fresh topic on evolution?
Yeah, I would say a fresh topic, because I don't think vaccinations is really going to get really into the meat of atheism myself. Can't see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll just start it off with the dinosaurs. Since
Yes.
last time, Mr. Arul, when I just engaged with Arul, he just told me that, do you have any evidence for the dinos? And I did brought up the topic of the uranium dating and all. So apart from that, I just added all the links in the comment section just to just for just for the sake of the skeletons found in every country. Just not like North America or some UK. These are the skeletons found all across the world just to prove the existence of the dinosaurs. You know, just like trying to create a point saying that it does contradict with your Bible's, Genesis order of creation. I really believe that,
Sorry.
nowhere.
Okay, sorry. David? Can I just be a bit more clear here? When you say contradicts the Bible, what specifically and how does it contradict the Bible?
And
Because
also,
Bible.
and also, you said I said that we don't believe in dinosaurs. Please don't misrepresent us. Please don't
No,
misrepresent.
when I asked you, like, do you believe in dinosaurs last week? You just asked me for evidence, which obviously proves the point that you do not believe in
Excuse me.
dinosaurs.
Whoa. Cool down, soldier. You either either you didn't hear properly, or you maybe have forgotten to accuse me of as if to accuse me by implication that I don't believe in dinosaurs is rather very weird. Absolutely
No,
weird.
you wouldn't ask for the evidence if you actually believed in dinosaurs, right? Yeah. When I asked you, do you believe
Therefore,
in dinosaurs? You said,
I did
when
not.
I asked, no, you did ask me for evidence last week. If I did watch the videos like
I
2 to
did
3
not.
times back.
Excuse me, I'm repeating.
David, he did
You
not.
can't just repeat
you
something
must-
and make it appear to be true.
Let me put it this way: it kind of doesn't really matter because it was a misunderstanding of what you thought he said. Clearly, I agree with Al. He definitely would not have said that. So there's just a misunderstanding. So let's get back to what we do agree and believe in. So when you say that believing in dinosaurs is somehow contradicting the Bible, can you just show the evidence of how you come to that conclusion?
Absolutely. I think, the first thing is that we need to find out the fossils for the dinosaurs. I just added all the links for you in the chat box, which would obviously take you to the websites where the scientists, the paleontologists, archaeologists have found the skeletons of the dinosaurs, which obviously proves the point that dinosaurs did exist in a certain period of time back
Okay.
in the past. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we need to find out the age of the fossil. I did some research, when just, well, I do believe, like last time Mr. Arul had questioned me, something on this uranium dating and all. So I did some research back on that, but it is up to you at the end whether to believe the carbon dating or the uranium dating is true or not. So do you want me to provide any further evidence to prove that the dinosaurs did exist, like millions of years ago? Like, because according to you, the Bible's Earth age is around like 6,000 to 10,000 years, whereas my contradiction is that the dinosaurs did exist for a long period of time. This is not like thousands or 10,000s, but it is like millions of years. So that is what my point is all about.
David, can I please say something? Really,
Yeah.
I sincerely apologize if it comes across perhaps a little bit rude. I sincerely apologize. That isn't the intent. Even last time this happened, it seems like within a matter of 2-3 minutes, you're talking about all sorts of different things, and I haven't got a clue as to what your points are. Please stay with one point. Please make sure you are representing our view properly, and please set the objective carefully and then jump onto it. Otherwise, you'll be proving something which was never asked of you at all. No, none of the panel members would ever say that we don't believe in dinosaurs. So to start off, we believe in dinosaurs. We believe dinosaurs existed.
Okay.
If you're talking about the age, the date, that's an area we might have disagreed, but I can't remember specifically discussing in detail about dinosaurs dating. I remember certainly discussing about radiometric dating methods, the principle behind the radiometric dating methods. That I remember doing. If you want to follow up on that, we can, but that's a separate topic. That's a detailed topic in itself. If you want to speak about, you're saying you've read up on uranium dating. I don't know what you want to bring back to us from that. If that's something you want to do, please go on. Don't bring dinosaurs there, because this is a complex area in itself. Is this what you wanted to
No,
do?
yes, correct. The fossils of the dinosaurs, when when you try to find the actual age of those fossils, it would obviously take you back to the millions of years, and it is not something like 6,000 or 10,000 years. That is the point I'm trying to make here. It's a
Okay.
clear and straight point.
All right, David. So what I would say to that for this discussion, this is not really the forum to go into that kind of discussion, because that is a very lengthy, detailed discussion. There is a great deal of evidence that suggests very strongly that the method of aging through this process is far from accurate, and there's real problems to it. It's a very big, complex area. Errol did provide some very good explanation at the top level of those concerns about the dating process, and really it's not something we can really discuss here, because it would, we would just take up all the time going into the detail back and forth. So really what we want to do is really just talk about the crux of, in fact, we have 3 challenges. Did you actually hear the 3 challenges that were mentioned at the beginning?
Yes. Okay, if you don't mind, can you just repeat one after the other in a line, because I did forget them, but I did hear what you asked earlier.
Yeah. So the first one is, which is putting a little bit more pressure on the atheist, is to provide evidence on why they believe the source of the universe cannot be from intelligent design. But we're not saying at this stage, prove to us there isn't a God. I'm just simply putting the challenge, because there's a reason why I'm putting it this way. But atheists do keep making this point that when they try to bring in sources, that source is not an intelligent design. It's something else. Evolutionary, random processes is mentioning, all this kind of other stuff, something coming from nothing or close to nothing, and so on. So I'd just like to know whether that's something you would like to talk about. That's number one. That's the first challenge. The second one is the source of morality, if you're able to provide any evidence of the source of morality. And then just lastly is, because it's a very key element to why we believe, from our position, to why there is a God, is that the evidence of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So the challenge that would be there to prove that there is an evidence, of course, of the death and resurrection of Jesus. So those are the 3. Is there one of those you'd like to talk about?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Now, the first thing is that regarding the evidence, I would like to say that we do not have any evidence for the God. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, as I've talked earlier on the...
Sorry, David, I do apologize. What did you just say?
I just said that we do not have any evidence for the God to come to the conclusion that some intelligent species have created us. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that whatever we have observed so far in the last few centuries, it all takes us to the Big Bang. And I did mention the fact that CMB radiation, the cosmic microwave background radiation, does indeed prove the existence, the occurrence of the Big Bang. And Mr. Arul, I have to tell you something. I did posted our conversation anonymously online.
David, please, you're doing the same thing again. Note carefully, in the last 1 minute, you mentioned CMB, and then you mentioned there is no evidence for God. Both massive areas, just in quick succession, and now you're moving on to the third topic. It does, skimming through. No one is... Please, David, please don't misunderstand me. No one is suggesting that they are not interlinked. What I am rather saying is, these are massive oceans in themselves, each one. Please just talk about one and get to the detail. If you don't get to the detail, we are never going to, make any progress.
Well, just to point out, when you talked about the Big Bang, that's not the thing that we want to discuss. We're quite happy in some way. we're quite happy to accept that there's some possible Big Bang, because God may have made some explosion happen. But what we are really wanting to explore is the source of the origin of life. So that's even before the Big Bang. Where did all this come from? That's the challenge.
As I said last week, whatever happened before the Big Bang is yet to be figured out. We do not have any clue on that. But God doesn't give you the chance.
That's not strictly true, by the way. That's not strictly true. So if you listen to some of the top atheists out there, do you not know they are actually putting forward some very, very distinct claims now? It's not a case we just simply don't know. When they get cornered, they will then say, well, certain areas we're still exploring, but we are now putting forward some very, very major claims. One of which is that there is a form beyond our universe that somehow played a part in the creation of the universe, and that's yet to be explored. So that was one theory that's sitting out there. The second is that we basically come from something can come from nothing. So somehow, still like it's a view that there's obviously, when they say nothing, they're kind of having to backtrack a little bit and say, well, when we say nothing, we mean close to nothing, something of very, very minuscule, minor level of molecular structure somehow started everything, grew, developed through what we call evolutionary process, to the point where then it was some very major clump of matter. And that's when you can then at that point say, well, then you can then introduce the Big Bang. But there is a very definite claim before Big Bang that there was some kind of very basic molecular structure close to nothing, but not necessarily absolutely nothing. That was the source, if you like, prior to the Big Bang. So what we're looking at is not what happens potentially, whether there was a Big Bang or not, but what was the source prior to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is what I'm trying to answer. I'm saying that what happened before the Big Bang, no scientists have ever found evidence for that, so we do not even talk about it. It's as simple as that.
No,
even you haven't.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong. You definitely do talk about it, and I've watched a ton of videos on the subject. I've looked at many websites about strong cases where they do believe all sorts of things and theories and what have you. And if you research it, so there isn't like they don't have a clue. They most definitely do have a clue in terms of their confidence that there's something out there, but they just admit that they haven't got to the very bottom of what that is to absolutely clearly prove the source. Now, what is interesting, and I think YB I'd like to entertain with you, is what would you say would be a starting point of life? So if you wanted to start, say for example, you're in a lab, and this is one of the challenges to many of the atheist scientists out there, was what would be your starting point if you're going to go into a lab to try and see if you can create life? What would you do to start that?
I personally cannot create something in the lab because it obviously takes like 100,000 to millions of years, and also the first life that started
no, it doesn't. So that's a mistake. That's not true at all. So the first point I would raise to you is, if you take a single cell, and the challenge is this, and many of the scientists, and we can name them, we might do that next week actually, start naming all these scientists that I have put the argument, and this is simply this, that they believe that they can create a life, and some of them have even claimed that they have, but then have had to kind of backtrack because we've never seen any evidence. And that is from a single cell. If you understand how a single cell kind of is made up and how it needs to work and form to then transition into multiple cells, obviously it needs to be multiple cells for it then to eventually become a living organism, is how in a lab can you go from a single cell to then add whatever you need to add to create life from it. And that was the challenge that was made by one of the chemists, which I've just forgotten his name. And that's the challenge that many of these scientists have been put, because they keep claiming, oh, yes, we can. All right, show me the evidence. Here's the interesting bit. You may not know, David, is a single cell, when you build the structures and all the components that need to hang together to make it work, and I'm saying this at a very simplistic level because I don't know the detail, I'm not a scientist or a chemist, is simply this. The time it takes for that cell to then form and build from that structure has to happen within hours. If it doesn't happen within those short period of time, it will just not survive. So it's not a case of adding billions of years to it. It is actually, and we can provide the evidences, which maybe I'll do next week, is that the cell itself has to have the structures, the connections in place within a very short point of time to then build from that structure, and so on and so on. And it's all those connections and building blocks which is what creates life, and it has to happen fairly quickly, not billions of years. So that's a very important distinction.
I did research on what you said earlier, the scientists who tried to create a single cell in the laboratory. But however, I strongly believe that the scientists who tried to create a single cell in a laboratory have used the cells of the existing living cell. They did not create a single cell out of nowhere, just like the life evolved. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that for a single cell to evolve, it requires a hydrothermal events, which usually occurs on the ocean bed floor, in the presence of strong cosmic rays, and the timeline that it takes for a single cell to evolve from amino acids, which are the building blocks of life. Amino acids from
one of the building blocks. There's 5 building blocks. That's one of them.
Amino acids are the building blocks, which obviously turns into proteins and then into the single cell. So, and the whole process usually takes, whatever we have observed so far, the scientists have observed so far, the single cell, for the single cell to evolve on the Earth, it took around like nearly 500 million to 750 million years. So it is just not like you create something in a lab like in a couple of hours. And all the scientists that you are claiming that have created a single cell, they have used the existing cells and they have not created a single cell out of nowhere. So it requires
one sec, David. We're not saying create a single cell from nothing. We are saying we'll give you the single cell. We'll give you it. We'll stick it in the lab. We'll put it in a petri dish or whatever. We'll give you the single cell. You then take that single cell, and from that, see if you can then create life, some kind of organic organism in some way. At least get the process started where that single cell then becomes multiple cell structures, and ultimately in some form of organic life. That's the challenge. And what we're going to do, because of the way you're arguing this, and maybe you're not aware that the very, very, very top scientists in this particular field are all kind of saying, no, we can do this. This is possible, blah, blah, blah. And the important point I just raised, which you completely missed, is the structures to develop and build that building block of a cell needs to be done in a very short period of time. In fact, they said it's around 4 hours, depending on which part of the structure. But those building blocks need to be done very, very rapidly in certain stages of that development. So it's definitely got nothing to do with millions of years or billions of years. It's about that cell's ability to stay alive, if you like, because if you don't allow the development to work, it's just simply it's on a time bomb, if you like. If it doesn't structure, develop to stay alive, it will just simply cease to be a living cell. So you can't leave a living cell and expect it to develop in millions of years.
I'd really like to find out what David is saying. David, are you saying, can we please agree? Are you clearly saying, using science, you can't create a living cell? Is that what you're saying?
Out of nothing, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not just like you create something out of a lab, out of nothing.
David.
Yes, I do agree with that.
I'm not asking you for excuses and reasoning. I'm asking you, is it possible or not?
Out of nothing, or is it like using the existing cells?
Take one of those two challenges.
yeah, most of the scientists that you're claiming that he's claiming or that he is referring about, they all created life using an existing cells. They usually take out the genes or usually take out the RNA or the smallest element, whatever it is possible, and then they try to create a replica of it. Usually, for the life to occur, you just can't do it in the laboratory within a span of few hours or that. It usually takes millions of years for the life to evolve from
David,
what we call
David, 1 second. Please stay focused. The question is simple. Can we
Yeah, I did
agree? Can we agree it hasn't been done? To take one of the two challenges, from nothing to one cell or from one cell to many cells. Maybe I won't come. I know Ray mentioned about one cell to many cells. From nothing to one cell, can we agree no one has demonstrated that transition? Can we agree on that?
Yes, I do agree with that.
Okay, so from nothing to one cell, if we can agree using science, hasn't been demonstrated so far. To believe, do you believe that from nothing that one cell came?
Yes, I do believe.
Which means your belief is an unscientific belief. Can we agree on that?
No, because in the laboratory, the lifespan of a human is around like 100 years. You cannot create something out of nothing.
For whatever reason, David,
because
one
the
second.
timeline is important. No, I just want to clear out something.
There
if
is
you
nothing.
Want to create a single,
there is nothing at all. If you stay focused, it's a very simple logical inference. There is nothing to clear up here. Very simply, number one, science hasn't done it. You still believe in it. It means you believe not in science, but unscientific ideas. Very simple inference. You're trying to give reasoning and so on. Irrelevant. For whatever reason, science couldn't do it.
Do not jump to conclusions without getting into details, because that is what you have been telling to me as well earlier. The thing is, the timeline it takes to create a single cell or for the single cell to evolve is like millions of years. You just cannot create out of something in a human span, so obviously it is not possible. So that is the reason why I said no, the scientists did not do it. The second reason why I believe is that it takes a vast amount of time. That is the reason why we have being 4.54 billion years old, and the reason why the single cell took 500 million years to evolve.
Which scientist tells you to create one cell from nothing takes millions of years? Which scientist tells you this? This is a weird idea. This is extremely weird.
Yeah, I've never heard this, so I'll be interested to one.
Which scientist tells you this?
Creating in the sense more like evolution, like the process of evolution. It usually takes.
David, focus. Question is simple. Which scientist? You just need to give a name. Which scientist tells you from nothing to one cell, it takes millions of years? Who says this? The answer is some sort of a name.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me out of sudden, I need to do a research on that, because I have read it long ago. And if you ask me out of sudden, like which scientist, just name it. I really can't name the scientist name out of suddenly. If you ask me like that.
Category: is he alive? Passed away? Which field? Biology? Chemistry? Which field does he belong to? Any?
Astrobiology. Astrobiology.
Astrobiology.
Okay.
Yes, astrobiology.
Okay,
is that such a thing?
Okay. All right, astrobiology. Which university? Any university? Particular university or research institute?
Like I read it like long ago. Like I just told you, I don't remember the person's name and the details, like where he actually graduated from.
Okay.
But again, I'll tell you one thing: for the single life to evolve, it takes 500 to 750 million years, and for the complex life.
David. Hey, whoa! Calm down, soldier, please. I don't know who you are, and you want me to trust in you? Please give details. Let's put it this way. Very simply, let's put it this way. If for some reason it takes such a long time, can you please describe what happens in this long time, in this 500 million years? What happens? So there is nothing to begin with. Over 500 million years, it becomes, at the end of it, it becomes one cell. What happens in the period? Can you please describe?
Yeah. So you are actually asking me the process of evolution from nothing to the single cell.
No.
That's exactly what
We're
we
not
call
talking about
evolution.
David.
Because the evolution of the single cell from nothing.
That's not
That's
evolution,
exactly
by the way, David. David, evolution. That's not evolution. Evolution is
exactly
the
the
process
evolution that
of
I'm talking about.
transition of
I can't believe this.
of living organisms transitioning through to other living
David,
organisms.
we're focused.
No, that's exactly part of
Nothing.
the evolution.
David,
So how
one second. We're focused. David, 1 second. We're focused. Nothing. There's nothing here. Over a period of time, maybe I should move a little bit this way. Nothing here. Over a period of time, you're saying after 500 million years, there is one cell. No, we're not talking about any other part of it. David, please. We're not talking about any other part of evolution. Leave that aside. Don't throw in red herrings, please. Stay just with this well-defined problem statement. Nothing. And at the end of 500 million years, one cell. I'd like to know what is happening in this 500 million years. What is happening here?
So yeah, I'll just start it off. So initially the Earth was formed, and it was kind of super hot gaseous, and we do have all these volcanic eruptions on the Earth, which obviously spits out the gases. All the gases within the Earth's crust into the atmosphere. It's not just like one gas, but all the gases, and then it forms a dense cloud. Raining all the gases back onto the ground. And initially the oceans were formed, due to the various asteroid impacts, as well as the volcanic eruptions.
Are you writing a novel of some sort or what? Are you writing a novel of some sort?
No, just let me explain what exactly happened. You just asked me what exactly has happened back then.
David. David.
No, I understood your question. Let me explain.
David.
I understood your question.
David.
No, you're not letting people explain, man.
David, stay focused. One cell. Whatever the rest of your myth will come to later, we have narrowed it down to this one little chapter. There is nothing here, and one cell here. What is happening in these 500 million years? Can you please describe just this line?
Just this process.
Bunch of chemicals, whatever the volcanic eruptions have occurred, it had released a bunch of chemicals back into the atmosphere, and it gradually rained down. And the one that you're talking about, what exactly happened, all these chemicals on the ocean bed floor, the ammonia, the sulfur, the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, which are the fundamental building blocks of the life, they got all together, forming a single cell. I mean, like the amino acids first, and then the proteins. Just look out for the chemical composition of amino acids. It's actually equivalent to what I was actually referring to.
Are you just, is it just a matter of throwing in a few mentally periodic table entry elements, ammonia, nitrogen, oxygen?
This reminds me what he's basically saying is that from nothing he can create a chocolate fondue, but when he starts creating this fondue, he's actually adding loads of stuff. So either you start with nothing, or you start with a load of stuff. So you've mentioned all these different things, which clearly can't be nothing. So nothing to a single cell doesn't involve loads of stuff.
Right. We can grant to David everything he wants under the universe or in the universe. Everything granted to you, and let's talk about the process still. Just throwing in ammonia, nitrogen, sulfur dioxide doesn't help. You need to give us details as to what is going on here, David. You either know or you don't know.
No,
what are you doing?
You didn't let me finish it.
Sorry, your audio is playing up.
You didn't let me finish the statements. You and Ray keep on talking all over me, and you guys are like not better.
David, please. David, I briefly removed you. Please, apologies. Let's stay focused. Very simply, we are asking a very simple question. You need to stay focused. You took a lot of time, didn't come close to explaining or giving the answer. Nothing to one cell. You were saying it takes 500 million years. I'd really like to know what happens in that process. It's as simple as that. You mentioned about you're talking about your what is that thing called? the Discovery Channel travel trips and so on. Volcano here. We're not talking about your Discovery Channel travel trips here, David. We are asking you from here to there, what is happening? Give us details. Don't throw in just red herrings all over the place and think you've answered a question, please. You're back.
No, I actually explained you what exactly happened.
David,
Life is nothing but bunch of chemicals. Even if yes, so, yeah. So I was telling you that the life is nothing but the bunch of chemicals that create the biological process. So everything for you just asked me like how did something came out of nothing. So it's just nothing but bunch of chemicals that got together and created life. I mean, like that's as simple as that. If you want me to put it as simple as that. And the point number 2 is that it just formed in the presence of cosmic radiation as well. It didn't just form out of nowhere. Back then we do not have ozone layer. Back when the Earth was formed in its initial days, like 500 million years after the Earth was formed, there was no ozone layer. We got a bunch of cosmic.
David, how old are you? You seem to know exactly what happened 500 million years ago. How old are you?
No, I mean, like, how come you know that God has created? How old are you guys? Like, how do you know that God has created?
Please don't muddle things up.
No, I cannot answer you on that topic platform. Sorry for that. I cannot answer you on that.
Yeah,
if you ask me about my age and personal details, I cannot do that. I'm sorry for that.
Clearly, it was sarcasm, David. It wasn't about your age. That's not the point, mate. The point is you seem to be extremely confident about what exactly happened 500 million years ago, and you're speaking as if you're a witness. Now,
4 billion years ago, 500 million years after the mission.
David, please stay focused. So far, you did not answer the question that was asked of you. No cell to one cell, you said it takes 500 million years. Can you please describe with specific detail? Don't just throw in, all the chemical formula which you never studied in your schooling. Don't throw them in here. Just because you didn't remember them back then, you can't just throw them in here.
If the answer is the chemical process, I have to tell you the chemical process. I'm not just throwing random stuff onto you. Just like you guys have thrown, the creation of plants on the 3rd day, and fourth day it was the creation of the sun and stars, which doesn't make sense to me.
All right, David. Let me put something to you. Let me put it a different way then. So I've heard this argument before, and it's an interesting one. So this actually gets very intriguing because I'll tell you why in a second. What you're describing, unknown to you, is almost the Bible account in some respects. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Because when God created the earth, he talks about bringing together all sorts of energies, forces, and all the rest of it. And exactly how he went about it in terms of the physicality, if you happen to be around to watch it, maybe something similar to what you described. That is the process of once we've got, shall we say, the ingredients to life, the core sources of life. Let's call that ingredients for now. The argument we've got is that we could accept that in some respects. The only difference is we're saying that this doesn't just happen by just throwing it's a bit like making a cake. If you throw all the ingredients in a caking mix bowl and just shake it all around and all that, somehow some nice little creature, frog or something, is going to pop out of there if you give it enough billions of years on it? Or is it more likely that from whatever the source of materials, which you still have to explain where they come from, of course, that even when you have all those ingredients, is it more likely that if it's orchestrated with some form of intelligence, which in the cake example was the chef, that uses his intelligence to apply the mixes in a very specific way? And the reason why that's so key is the molecular structure of it. Even a single cell is so incredibly super complex that scientists agree that random evolutionary process, even if you chuck electric at it, this energy at it, simply cannot create life. The probability is too ridiculously remote. So the argument you need to make, if you're going to make that, is one, where does all this source of stuff come from in the beginning? because that is the challenge. What is the source of the universe? You can't say, well, it has gases, it had this, because you still begs the question, where does that come from? But once it's there, what's the probability, what's the more likely of all those ingredients forming this incredible universe and life as we see it without some kind of intelligent design behind it, versus just let the natural effects of energy and cosmic radiation, all this, somehow create life without any intelligence behind it? So those are the two options, but you still would have to explain the source of it in the first place. Does that make sense?
The source, no, it's just a cyclic argument. You just keep asking me the source for that, and I keep saying that the science have not figured out what happened before the Big Bang. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I just explained what I have, the scientific people have told or have, thrown out the research papers on it. So that is what the thing is. Whether if it is comical or whether if it is hilarious to you, well, I do not have to care on that. That's the second thing. I just explained you the process of evolution from nothing to single cell, and it's up to you whether if it is.
No, but you didn't. You told me loads of stuff which can't be nothing. I don't know about you, but last time I checked, loads of stuff is not nothing. Unless I'm going to alley here, please help me out if I am really losing the plot.
It didn't happen out of nowhere.
Nothing is literally the what's a good way to put this? The removal of things, of stuff. So if you have stuff,
I think there might be a bit of a misunderstanding there, Ray. And this is where I really wanted to stay on one topic, because I think you are talking about Big Bang, the origin, but he was talking about nothing to one cell, one living cell. When he means nothing in this situation, he means no living cell to one living cell, with
Correct.
all the non-living things which are already there. That's why he's throwing in all the chemicals there, I think. But here is where you need to choose one area and you need to stay on topic so we can get to the bottom, David. So are you, David, did you want to take up Ray on the topic of the Big Bang, or did you want to take
No, Big Bang. Ray is going to ask me the same question, like what is the origin of the Big Bang, or what caused the Big Bang?
Not the origin. So I'll just rephrase my question on the Big Bang slightly different. I'll be honest with you. Let's assume on the basis, whatever, prior to that, we get to the stage where there is this Big Bang. And I'm quite happy to accept in some way, shape or form a form of Big Bang. And I did mention it briefly why I said that. But what I am asking is that from the beginning, or the starting point of that Big Bang, what is the more likely of the two, that the Big Bang just on its own accord, through just natural effects like you were mentioning, to form life, versus an intelligence behind it orchestrating that process? Did you catch those two options?
Yes, I did understand. You just gave me two options, whether if God has created it or whether
I didn't say
everything...
God. I never mentioned God at all. That's a deliberate reason why I never mentioned God, because that's an extra step. I just said, is it more likely that some form of intelligence, I'm not saying whether there is proof of it at this stage, I'm just saying what is more logical, that intelligence is behind it based on what we know of the universe and everything else, that it's more likely that there's that it points to there's some form of intelligence behind it. It doesn't have to be God at this stage, just to agree in principle that intelligence is a more logical explanation or inference to the formation of a Big Bang into life, versus it just happened on its own natural accord through natural effects that you were mentioning about radiation, heat, and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, obviously. Now I'll just go with the option of you saying that it just happened naturally. And moreover, to be precise, it is not more likely a natural thing, but more likely an accidental thing. The life on the Earth is accidental. The reason why you didn't find life on the other planets or any other exoplanets so far we have discovered is life is so rare, it happens so accidental, because you need all the ingredients, as well as in the presence of cosmic radiation with the immense hydrothermal events that are going on on the ocean floor, and all these elements, all these things have to come together to create the single cell or whatever the cell that
I'm with you. I like what you just said there, because I've just spotted something that stares me in the face. So what you're basically saying with all these ingredients, whatever you want to call them, would give you benefit of the doubt, because I don't expect you're the scientist himself, but it's wherever you've read, you've got some understanding that there's all these elements that are, if you like, the ingredients to form life. And because it's a billions and billions a year process, which requires all sorts of amazing randomness to somehow work together, that's why we only have life on Earth and nowhere else, because it's that unlikely. It's so random. But what you're saying is that through that formation and all that randomness, you're going to create a single cell as the beginning of that cell structure transition to create multiple cell and eventually life. Here's the major problem with that. What is absolutely evident without any question of a doubt is the single cell itself. One, what's the evidence of how you physically create it? That's the first issue. Now, you could go down, what you're talking about is loads of theories, by the way. None of it's been proven. The second issue, which is far more important, is that when you have a single cell, how do you get from a single cell to organic life? It's not millions and billions of years. That is an absolute false statement. That has been proven, clear cut. We can provide that evidence next week if you want. What it's saying is that once you get to a single cell, it has to form very rapidly within hours. It simply cannot sustain life, stay intact as a living cell to create further living cells before it starts forming a very complex set of cells, which needs to be seriously organized, by the way, to then create life. And if you look at, which gets really interesting, if you look at, which I'm going to throw this in because it's my topic, is probability. If you look at probability, and I think there was a silly number going forward, of the probability of all these little random cells going and clustering together, all the dependencies to create organic life, is 1 to the power of some ridiculous number that even billions of years still wouldn't come close to prove getting life. So even if you throw billions of years, it's still nowhere near the likelihood. And gets worse is the cells, that's not how they work. They simply don't work that way. They have to be structured within a short period of time. Additional cells are then formed. And something, of course, that needs to be very, very precise. I mean, it's incredibly precise, which is why we say intelligence, that scientists are now starting to realize, hey, we got this wrong. We really didn't do the research. It is clearly pointing to intelligence. Maybe we don't know what that intelligence is. That's a separate topic, but at least we're starting to believe it is intelligence that makes far more sense than this random theory. Somehow through some random evolutionary process, it eventually becomes an organic life. That is so incredibly unlikely that even if you throw billions of years, it's nowhere near. And 2, that's not even how cell formation works. It just simply wouldn't survive. It needs to survive in a very short period of time. That's absolute, very, very latest scientific discovery that's been peer tested and reviewed. It's been put out there by, I forgot the guy's name, Truro or Trust, I forgot his name now, who's put out the challenge. Not one scientist has yet come back to disprove the case. So this is the case that is the issue. Now, of course, a lot of the scientists are saying, yes, we believe we can do it in theory, but what they're starting to realize, they can't, but they do realize the limitations as well. It's not something you can throw billions of years anymore, because that's just not the way cell formation works.
So Ray, maybe I'll put it this way. I think we are talking about a few different things, and we may not be connecting well with David here. So this is where I really think we need to choose one of the different aspects we are talking about, and so we can get to the bottom of that. Just so we can have a meaningful discussion with David in terms of understanding what is plausible and what is not plausible at all. So can I please suggest, Ray, that perhaps we stick with just the, so Big Bang, inorganic material, now from no living cell yet to one living cell. Maybe that's something we can really focus on. and there we can ask David, how could this be possible? And there we don't need speculative ideas. We need reasonably concrete information, without which, at least let's say, he is speculating. So David, can you please suggest to us, ammonia, nitrogen, oxygen, everything is there. Please give us your view. Are you saying when all the inorganic material, when all the elements are available, whereas no cell was so far in existence, for the first cell to come about, are you saying it takes 500 million years? Are you saying that you have concrete information as to how this happens? Please clarify, because I'm a bit unsure as to what your view is. Even, are you saying you know how this happens, or are you saying you're speculating what happened here?
No, this is exactly what happened. The 500 million years, the timeline that I've referred to is because initially the Earth was too hot. It has to gradually cool down in order for the life to occur. It just cannot occur in a billions it cannot just occur in thousands of degrees centigrade. So the Earth has to cool down. It took a lot of time for that, and after that we do have some volcanic eruptions. It's just like I just explained earlier. And the volcanic gases, they just spitted out all the gases into the atmosphere, and then forming the oceans, the asteroid impacts, cosmic, and this is literally what happened. I'm not just throwing any speculative ideas on that.
I like that, David. You said literally, so I'm sure you've then got some kind of reference, because it's clearly not your own research. You've done all the tests yourself. So can you give us a reference of where you're sourcing this, what you call literal fact rather than speculative theory?
Regarding this, the formation of nothing, the formation of things.
You're saying it's literal, like it's something that's known. So can you let us know the source of where you got this from?
I think I need to maybe I need to pause this or something, because I need to go back to the scientific research paper where I actually read it. So I think it might take some time for that. And apart from this, I do have one more thing.
David, can I please make one comment there, David?
Absolutely.
Here is where I really think it is very, very important to differentiate between what is no. Okay. I think here is where it's very. Okay, please. I think this is where it's very important to distinguish between speculative ideas versus established facts.
Correct.
Bear in mind, scientists, you might have heard about this experiment called Urey-Miller experiment a long time ago. Have you heard of that Urey-Miller experiment? There has been. Have you heard of this Urey-Miller experiment? There have been, very, very simply, David, what is a fact, scientifically speaking, is only what has been established. What hasn't been established, however confident someone asserts it's still a speculative idea. What hasn't been established. So when you talk about, well, this is the exact proper process in which things have happened, and someone may speculatively propose something, but that is not to say that's a fact. You need to differentiate between those two things. So could we please agree that you'd find out? Let's just stick to this. I know there were a few other challenges Ray raised, but maybe just stick to this.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise,
everything else was there, but no living cell. From there, one living cell. Please get all the resources that you can gather to explain whether your ideas are scientifically demonstrated ideas or ideas which are in speculative realm. Yeah, maybe next week or something. What do you think?
Because we are getting quite a few people in the
Absolutely.
chat now. So
And Mr. Ray, can I just talk something on this morality? Where did you just asked? I think it was your second question. You just asked on
yeah,
how the morality.
if you can be very
Yeah,
brief,
if you don't mind,
yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
if you don't mind, can you just repeat the question again? I would like to throw a few points before I actually leave out,
Yes,
because I just want
to. Basically, the simplicity of it is just to ask, what is the evidence for the source of morality? So, a lot of atheists, agnostics, I will admit, don't seem to have complete agreement with this, but the evidence, whatever evidence you've got, that provides a source of morality is what we're looking for.
source of like, if you want me to answer it from the terms of evolution, or like from the terms of like what I have actually read, morality, morals, ethics, these are all like human construct. Back, when we are apes, we do not have morals. Like, do you think an animal would have morals or something like that? Like they just hunt on the other preys and then they just go on. Like the source of the morality is more likely a religion, or more likely it's a human construct. That is what my
So
answer is regarding.
you're going for human construct. Okay.
So
Yes,
are
it's a
you,
human.
David? Are you saying you don't believe in objective morality? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I know these are all morals, ethics, all these values are all just like human construct, but it doesn't exist in reality. Good, bad, devil, evil, heaven, hell, all these are all
Wonderful.
like religious.
Good to know. Good to know. So you really think love isn't moral?
The love is not. Love is more like an affection or like a feeling. It does exist in reality, but what I'm saying is that the morals, the morality, the moral values are kind of human constructs. Let's say that lying. I'll talk about the lying and the truth. So we all know that speaking the truth is morally correct, but how many of us do really speak the truth? Like they often lie sometimes to win the arguments. They do not agree with someone else just for the sake of winning the arguments.
Maybe
So these are all like.
maybe you're describing yourself here, David.
Yeah, I know that I'm actually pointing towards you, but yeah, that's fine. So anyways, I would like to give the chance to other people as well, because they've been waiting for so long.
What's the difficulty here, David, is that if you think of it like, well, it's kind of a human construct, then of course we are all independent humans. And then what you do see from that is a huge wide span of a difference of opinion on what is good, what is bad, what are the elements of morality from that simple perspective.
Sure.
And therefore we get to a real issue to say, well, what is truly good? What is truly bad? You cannot go to any even group of humans and come to one clear agreement. You're going to have a level of consensus on things, but you'll never get to a what we say absolutely true case of what is good and what is bad, because there are too many differences of opinion, which means we are going to be in a very, very difficult position to truly qualify whether what somebody does is necessarily good or necessarily bad. And therefore, is it okay for them to do that? Because even people that have committed some atrocities have it explained in a way to justify it, because they're saying it's like some form of human cleansing. So so it then becomes really difficult to say where, if it's going to be purely a human construct, which means it's sourced by humans, that we are really in a very, very bad way, because therefore we really don't have any handle on morality. And that for me is a very scary place to be if that's the case. But yet somewhere deep in us, certainly I feel that the qualities of love, the qualities, certain qualities, etc., all point to some greater source of morality that is what we call the objective morality, an absolute morality that we should be governed by. Because if not, then we have really got ourselves in a really, really bad way. And maybe this is half the problem, is that people don't look to this source and just think between themselves they can build their own set of moralities. This is half the problem why the world is in such a bad way. So to prove it's purely a human construct, that will be an interesting challenge. And how are you going to prove that?
Maybe what he means is, Ray, that he doesn't even need it. He's not necessarily saying he needs it. Maybe.
That's interesting.
Like society, the human constructs, whether what seems to be good to you in your country might seem to be bad in my country. Like what seems to be good to you might be different in a different religion. So it's all just like human construct.
But here is where I think we'll talk about love alone. So do you think love is a good thing or bad thing?
It's obviously a good thing. There is no debate on that. But since if you take it in
so why? If there is no debate on that, how come? You said all morality is a human construct, but you are saying on this there is no debate. That's a contradiction.
Love exists by default. Even you can see the animals loving their own kittens, or the dogs, loving their own puppies. So that's what I'm talking about. Regarding the rest of the things, lying, truth, like deceiving others, these are all just human construct. For these, you observe the gravitational force, all the fundamental force that do exist in the nature by default. The love is something which do exist by default in the nature, even within amongst the animals as well. So I just got
maybe there is a misunderstanding. So can you please describe what love is to you? Maybe there is a misunderstanding even the definition. What is love to you?
Love, it's an affection between two persons. It could be between mother and father, mother and children, or it could be between the parents, the siblings, or the friends. That's what.
No. So biblically speaking, love is a very different construct. But between siblings, showing affection, you're not being a great guy. That's just normal. That's ordinary. You better do it. That's very ordinary. Even towards your parents, to show that affection, that's ordinary too. That's ordinary, very ordinary. That's really, really only showing gratitude to a degree. Love is where you sacrifice yourself and act in the best interest of the other person, which is even when it hurts, to make sure the other person's best interest is put in front of your best interest. That's true love. That's what biblical love is. Do you appreciate
that makes the human construct, the whole that you have explained, it doesn't exist by default in nature. Animals do not exhibit that. Only humans who have gained enough consciousness would be able to define love in such a way that you have described just now. So it's the one that you have described is more likely a human construct. You just took
David, 1 second. Just to be clear, you haven't demonstrated that love exists in nature. You haven't really so far. Please have your
animals exhibit love towards the other animals. Haven't you seen dogs exhibiting love towards their puppies? It's a clear evidence for the demonstration that what is I was actually referring to or talking about.
Okay, let's be clear. I'm precisely talking about denying yourself, even when it hurts, to act in the best interest of the other person. That's what I am talking about right now. What animals do, you may think you are an expert in. I don't want to get into that realm right now, because none of us have been animals. We don't know how they think, if they think, which they most likely don't, but we don't know the behavior. So let's keep that aside for a moment.
Let's keep it to the human mind, I think.
What's that?
Yeah, keep it to the human race.
Just keep it to human beings. We only know human beings. We are human beings. We can think about human beings. Here, would you, if I told you, David, that denying oneself and acting in the best interest of the other person is pinnacle of morality, would you agree or not?
I would rather say it's a human construct. I cannot say I do agree, because to me, morality and all does not exist by default. Whatever you are talking about is like an extension of what actually the love is. So yes, you can write it. You can just write it the way.
You have breakfast. You're talking about your lunch.
No, I was actually telling you that it does not like a human construct. No, I do not agree with that. It does not exist.
I'm not asking you if it exists or not. I'm asking you, would you consider that to be the pinnacle of morality?
If morality does exist, yes, I do consider. Yes, it's the highest form of the love that you can exhibit.
David,
on someone.
maybe you're not hearing right now. Please wait patiently. Note the words that are coming from my mouth. Don't go by the ideas going through your mind. Please listen to me. I am not asking where from it comes. That's not the question. I'm not asking if it is natural or artificial, man-made or natural. I'm not asking that too. I'm asking you, would you appreciate denying yourself and putting the best interest of the other person to be pinnacle of whatever man-made or artificial, man-made or natural morality? Would you appreciate that that's a wonderful thing to have?
If morality does exist, yes, I do appreciate that.
I feel
Because
you
by
just
default,
mean it does exist.
about
It's just
morality is because it does not exist by default. So if you are asking me to something regarding morality or something like which is a human construct, yes, of course. If it does exist, then of course it is the highest pinnacle of whatever.
David, I really can't believe how your indoctrination is leading you not even to have a simple conversation. I'm asking you, maybe I'll make it very simple. Very simple. If an elderly woman gets into a bus, you are sitting on a bus, every seat is taken, an elderly woman gets in, you are very tired, after a long day at work, you're really, sitting there, whatever, the elderly woman comes in. Would you like to give your seat to the elderly woman or not?
Of course, I will. Of course, I will.
Okay. Sure. Just that's enough. That's a very simple question. That's a very simple answer. And if someone doesn't do that, would you think that's somehow that's not
a good thing.
A good thing to do? For example, let's say I'm sitting like who me, this person, and I am sitting there, and this elderly woman gets in, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just sitting there. Would you appreciate that?
And she's struggling to stand up.
Yeah. Would you appreciate that?
No, I do not.
Why? This is exactly what I'm saying. So when you give the seat, you appreciate. When I don't give the seat, you don't appreciate. So clearly there is a Boolean response there.
And if
one
that's the only
the other side is bad.
Yeah, and if that's the only thing that exists in the way we can behave, we have created a form of morality.
And so, David, but even more fundamentally, please explain why when I do give the seat, you appreciate, and when I don't give the seat, you don't appreciate. When in your mind, morality is just a human construct. Why would you have these responses?
I mean, that's a good point. So giving a seat to someone is appreciated, and not giving the seat to someone is not appreciated. Well, it's kind of still a human construct. However, I'll just tell you one thing: the bus. I'll just come to the point.
David, ignore human construct. Why do you have those responses? You appreciate the giving the seat, you don't appreciate the not giving the seat. In you, David, why do you respond in those particular ways?
I do not have answers for that.
What's that?
I said it's a kind of morality is kind of a human construct. So whatever I'm thinking of is correct to me. So I'll just tell you one thing. The guy who is sitting, he might be thinking that he is correct in his own way. Simple as that. Just like I'm thinking that.
I'm not asking the guy there, David. Unless you answer even one question, we're not going anywhere. Look, I'm not speaking to the guy who is sitting on the chair. I'm speaking to you. To you, the question is, why do you appreciate when that guy gives the seat and you don't appreciate when that guy doesn't give the seat? Why do you appreciate the first response and don't appreciate the second response?
Okay, yeah. So as I've told earlier, it's a human construct. The thing that I appreciate is because it was the morality that I created in my mind is appreciating someone who offers a seat to someone else in need. And
Nice. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough, David. Do you know of anyone who would have a reverse idea in your circles? Anyone? A reverse idea where someone think, hey, how dare you give your seat?
Obviously, I do. No. Obviously, I do see people who do not offer the seats to someone in need, like a pregnant woman or an elderly lady. They just do not offer the seats to someone else. As I do see the people in day-to-day daily life, like when I do travel.
David, I ask your first name, you're giving me your second name. Please stay focused. I'm not asking if everyone does it or not. I'm asking if everyone would appreciate in the same way or not. It's a very different question.
Not everyone does appreciate. No, not everyone appreciates it. Not everyone appreciates it.
So
Someone just be like, I see people in day-to-day life with hatred. Even if you try to do something good, they'll just point out and they'll just ask you questions. Why have you done that? Like, you don't have to do it in the first place. I've seen people questioning me when I was trying to do good to someone else. They just point you like, what's the reason? What's the cause for doing it? I have seen people.
David, can I just say one thing here, David? What you're trying to describe, the way I understand you're trying to explain this, is that from your view, you can see that it's a good thing to give up your seat, which is great to hear. I'm glad you actually said it that way. And I think majority of people would agree with you. But I also would agree, for whatever reason, not everybody would agree. There are some people out there that have some very interesting opinions and views of what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. What that shows is no individual person has the autonomy over right and wrong. And you'll see that when you look at the world, that there is just a sea of opinion, even though we can see there's an underlying agreement of good and bad. We just can't get it fundamentally agreed throughout all of mankind. Why that is an interesting question. But one of the things is if we are purely relying on humankind alone and what they view in their opinion is good and bad, who is to say whether God, good and bad, even exist? Who is to say what's true, what's not? It's just an opinion. We get what we just end up with is purely a subjective view that we simply cannot solve, even though deep down in us we kind of know what's good and bad, but somehow, because of when we look at the whole of humankind, we can't make a consensus of that opinion. And what that shows to me, it therefore can't be the source of that morality, because who is to truly define you, me, he, this guy, that guy? And that's why we have all the issues, because when we rely purely on humankind to come up with the, if you like, true definition of good and bad, we simply cannot achieve it, which to me means there must be a objective source that would explain it. And that's why we believe there's a God. That's one of the reasons why we believe there's a God, because God is the source of morality, because he created us. What we don't have is inside us an absolutely clear cut, without end, because we basically we call it sin, but basically, to make it easy, we simply commit things we shouldn't. We make wrong decisions through free will. We do all sorts of good and bad things, and we certainly don't have an agreement on what defines good and bad, even though there is a underlying sense like love, core structures. We do have a pretty good consensus. What we can't do is get a clear objective view of what morality is, which again begs the question, Where therefore where is it sourced? It can't be sourced in me. It can't be sourced in you. It has to be something outside of that if it's going to make any sense. But we do believe it exists because we have so much demonstration of it. But what we need to do is find out how can we pull this together to get a clear understanding of what the morality is. We have some fantastic examples of it. What we believe in what we believe from God is what we see in Scripture, in the Holy Bible, is an incredibly fundamental explanation, you feel like, through principles of what morality is about, through the example of Jesus Christ. That's the morality we go to because we believe it's the best and absolute, clear-cut, undeniable, unquestionable, unvariable case of what true morality is. And it is about love, self-sacrifice, care, and all these kind of qualities. The problem is man himself fails too many times to succeed in that. And as I mentioned, there is a clear issue with comparing one person to another. You can't get everyone to come together and agree 100% on their own what the morality is, even though I'm sure, which you even proved yourself in answering that question, but at least it must exist.
So at the least, I'll just say this, David. Regardless of the responses that you might have in your life, you might have seen in your life in relation to the simple scenario we described, I really think if you bring together fair-minded people, we could all very quickly agree giving the seat is a good thing to do, whether a person does it or not, and not giving a seat is not a good thing to do, whether the person doesn't do it or not. And so I think we'll leave it there. So in other words, very, 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 very simply, objective morality does seem to exist. And we can demonstrate that. Ray, we do have a few other people actually waiting for us. We have our friend Abhi. We have AJ from yesterday actually. AJ here. I think AJ wanted to speak. Abhi wanted to speak about morality. So we shall. What do you think? Shall we bring Abhi in just to quickly?
Indeed.
Yeah. Abhi?
Hi, good evening. How are we?
Hey, by God's grace, okay, Abhi, how are you doing?
Yeah, all
Good evening,
good.
Abhi.
Just listening. Good evening, Ray. Yeah, just listening to the discussion. I actually wanted to talk about morality in a different way, and I wanted to assume that the moral principles in the Bible are correct and establish that as the neutral ground.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, how then would we design society from a legal point of view, and what should some of the punishments be? What do we do when non-Christians, people who truly don't believe that the moral principles in the Bible are correct and true, they have other values and beliefs? What do we do when they sin or when they break these laws? This was the kind of thing I wanted to come in and talk about. There was just a couple of things that came up in the previous conversation that I'm a little bit unsure on.
Yeah, this is quite a tough one, I think. Morality is because whenever you have discussions, I've had many discussions with people at work and friends, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of them non-believers, and I do struggle sometimes because people can be very easily influenced to believe all sorts of things that aren't necessarily that moral, but for them, in their view, they can justify it. The difficulty we've got is the fact that all of us are clearly showing that we are not perfect. We can't guarantee making the right decisions, doing the right thing. And therefore, we're living in a world where there's all these mistakes made, some of them quite serious, of course. So within a world of imperfection, if you like, we have to live. We have to get past certain things. We have to kind of come together in agreement in some way, shape, or form. So we do need to have some kind of rules and laws. We can't just let people just do whatever they like, be due to consequences and accountability. There needs to be a just way to handle it. Within a human perspective, they make an attempt at it, and they do it structurally, as you know, through initially geographical basis, in terms of countries, and within countries, states, has its own judicial systems, and then that just cascades down into smaller areas, boroughs, what have you, and then even through that, even into family life and so on. And with that, there's all the laws that are associated, which is making an attempt to try and address and handle that. And it does, in some cases, a pretty good case. If it wasn't, we would have chaos. But we can certainly see the flaws in many examples as well, a lot of injustices that take place, especially in certain countries. If we compare different countries, there's a huge gap between the level of justice served and the way it's served, and corruption and one thing or another that goes on. But what we do see is that when we look at it purely from a human perspective, then we really are in a very precarious place, because if we rely purely on us humans alone with our difficulties and the way people can be easily persuaded in all sorts of directions, and as you've seen in life through all the news and what you've heard through your own life, that you've captured through your time already, that there is a lot of crime, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of anger going on. We don't seem to have within our own capability to solve this. We do make an attempt at it, of course. And so therefore we have to then ask ourselves, well, where is the source that we can go to that ultimately can resolve this? God of the Bible does talk about those two areas. It talks about the justice, that there has to be justice. But at the same time, there needs to be a loving way to resolve this, so that people can have a way to because we can't ultimately say, well, let's just accept what everyone behaves and how they behave, because it will never be solved. We can't live eternally with people that are continually committing crimes, murdering and doing all these different things. We've got to have a way to clean this out. We need to resolve this, and God has provided a way out, but through those that genuinely believe and demonstrate that, and through what we see in scripture, what that involves, which is a true loving way to resolve all the all the crime, all the sin, all the problems, that ultimately God will address this. And that's what he's promising. He's done that through the evidence history, through Jesus. Through that, there is a promise that if we believe, this is going to be resolved ultimately. The only downside is it's not going to be resolved in our lifetime, in terms of our life now on earth while we're in this state. It's going to be a future state, although the way it's looking, that may not necessarily be that far away, but it is prophesied to be a future state, a new heavens, a new earth, it calls it, that God will resolve all this. But until then, we are unfortunately in a world which is full of a lot of issues. Now, the nice thing about it, though, is because so many generations have existed through the years, it's given a huge number of people the opportunity to get their life right for God, in terms of their life in front of God. And if God sees that in an individual in a genuine way, those are the ones that he's going to look after and save, and give them this opportunity to a new life that basically will be free of all these issues, which includes sin and death as well. So you won't even grow old. It's going to be a life that you will be living forever, free from all these problems. Unfortunately, we are living, and this is the Bible story where, through free will, man unfortunately made the wrong choices. That's the life we live in now. It's a difficult one, but there is a way out, a just way out that God has provided through his son, Jesus. And that's how that's addressed. I don't know if that's quite answering your question, but
maybe not directly, but there were bits and pieces that were relevant. I think let's agree on a few things first.
Sure.
would we agree that assuming the moral principles in the Bible are true, the way in which the world is at the moment, it's statistically more likely that kids born and raised into this world are gonna grow up conditioned to, like, socially conditioned to think that sinful behaviors are okay. For instance, things like sexual immorality, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff. We can probably create quite a long list, but not much is actually occurring to me at the moment. But could we agree on that?
Yeah, definitely. I can see the world is deteriorating. I think moral standards are definitely deteriorating, sadly. Major big issues have been better resolved, albeit not gone away. But the big thing that I see is the definite serious decline in morality and the continued acceptance of things that are clearly not morally right, but somehow they've got accepted. They've been repackaged in a way to make them sound palatable. And before you know it, it's been kind of mainstream acceptance. And while we're going down that road, things are spiraling out of control, which is why we need our Lord Jesus to come in and sort this out, because you're right, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And the problem with it is that when it starts to come down to basic family level, children growing up being conditioned this way, it's a very serious place to live in, and it's not healthy for sure.
Okay. But then, given that, if we want to design the world in a way that we fix these problems, right? Because at the end of the day, these things can impact who gets saved or who doesn't get saved in the end. So how can we? My question with you would be, what changes would you make? Let's assume that that the UK changes to a dictatorship and you won a raffle and you're the new dictator of the UK, and you get to ban certain things, you get to decide the punishments. You know, what would be some of the immediate changes you would make, and how do you justify that, biblically speaking?
Yeah, so the first thing is I certainly wouldn't be wanting to make like changes to that level, because I know and understand from scriptures that we simply cannot solve these problems, and our focus is not on to solve the world that we're living in now. We can certainly contribute to help it, but where focus is not on fixing it, if you like, because the fix is through our Lord Jesus Christ and the offer of eternal life into a new world, not the existing one. So we wouldn't be putting too much time and effort trying to fix this world, where now real focus is on the eternal life that's offered after following this life. But that's not to say we ignore it. We can be charitable, we can be loving, we can do all sorts of things to help. Some people even get into politics. I'm not a big fan of politics myself, but we would know that because it's very temporary and very futile, if you like, to do too much when the focus is more about our eternal life, which is far more important than just helping people with a very temporary life now.
I see where you're coming from, Ray.
Can I just put it this way, Abhi? Very simply put, regardless of the current state of a nation such as ours, what is needed, so you said, currently, children grow up with the wrong idea of sexual morality and so on with the current state. So regardless of what the current state is, what is needed to bring the nation back to God is merely preaching or taking the word of the Lord, the insights in the word of God to the public. And every sincere human being, when they hear the truth, they'll be cut to their hearts. If you see what I mean. So you, in other words, you can really start from a very bad state and transform that into a good state, as long as there are preachers preaching, and this is God's plan. This is God's plan from the first century onward. Christianity isn't about Christianity is supposed to work with any sort of political structure in place. Jesus worked when the Roman authorities were ruling over Judea too, through the sort of a vassal of the Herodian family. So that's the very important thing. What we need is not a dictator. We don't need a dictatorship at all. We need preachers. We need the word of God being preached.
Okay. So this is more of a live and let live and help others understand what is right and wrong. This kind of approach, not necessarily.
Yeah, essentially it begins with the inside out.
Okay. Okay. So a bottom up approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. That's cool.
Yeah, not through a system. In other words, we're not looking to go for any kind of system to try and. But it is a one-to-one, if you like. It's a personal one-to-one, bringing the word of God, allowing God to then transform. A lovely point Errol made is to transform the heart, and that is the most significant, most powerful way to bring someone from a bad place into a good place, because that changing of heart is what really transforms them.
And it can work under dictatorship. It can work under Hitler. It can work under North Korean leadership. It can work anywhere. What we need is the word of God. What we need is the truth from the Bible, and people taking that truth into nations.
Okay, cool. Fine. If I do have any other questions, maybe we can take that over to a Zoom. But Errol, I have a serious bone to pick with you, man. You said something earlier.
Glad you said it, not me.
Yeah, I mean, you said animals. I'll let you say it again, but something about animals and thinking. Can you just clarify what you think about that?
Animals are not demonstrated to be not sentient beings.
What do you mean by sentience?
Well, think essentially. The function of thinking doesn't seem to have been demonstrated by animals. I mean, no, there's no animal which is making artificial, let's say, bricks, for example, to build some house.
Okay,
there's no animal.
Specifically on that particular topic, I mean, there's a YouTube video I saw earlier, and I don't want this to be the central theme of the conversation, but just on that particular point, there was a YouTube video I saw earlier where you can see chimpanzees or other types of apes, using stones and sticks and tools like that to, break things, to collect insects, to eat, and all that sort of stuff. I think you can clearly see that there is some level of thinking, working things out, problem solving going on in animals. I don't know. I mean, I really respect you, Errol, and I don't know. It's just so surprising to me that you said this. But obviously, I want to keep an open mind. But I think it's a ridiculous statement.
Abhi, I can say this. I mean, of course, I don't want to be. I don't want us to take too much time on this right now. But what I can say is this: animals can. You can clearly teach animals, if that's what you're talking about. You can clearly teach animals. You can train animals. You can teach animals. No one is denying that. The problem is whether they are thinking. Whether they are thinking to do something, training animals. Of course, it's a domestication of animals is a very, very ancient practice. But does domestication involve, or does any other form of teaching animal involve getting the animal to think? I don't think so. It's, I think, conditional responses most of the times. It's essentially, of course, clearly they clearly animals solve problems, but whether it is through thinking or not is a question to be asked. And that is where I gave the example of which animal is making anything artificially? And that is the key question to ask.
Yeah,
Taking
you
a
can see birds making nests. Is that not evidence?
Okay, so maybe let me repeat the question I asked. Which animal is producing, which animal is using an artificial brick? Birds are using twigs that are existing in nature, putting them together for a nest. Clearly, animals are not just a simple nest. There are very complex structures that, including, of course, even in what might appear to be very trivial in a spider's nest and so on. Very complicated things going on there. But how much of it is through a thinking process? The evidence for the obvious evidence for a thinking process is what we kind of do, where we produce artificial raw materials even to
I
then
mean, what's stopping an alien from coming to Earth, and they have some crazy technology, but they say, no, human beings are not sentient. They don't think. They're not able to produce the technology that we're able to. In other words, what I'm saying is the line you've drawn in terms of being able to produce things, I think it's arbitrary in that, oh no, putting together bricks, using concrete.
I've got something to add, Abby, that might help in this kind of scenario. Of course, like Errol did mention initially, that we don't know precisely how animals, let's just for argument's sake, to make it a bit easier, put any kind of level of thinking process in place. But what we would say is significantly, whatever it may be, very different to humans. Humans can easily be isolated, can be isolated as being very, very unique in the way that we think and how we process, which no animal can compare to that. And I think that's something we can absolutely agree on.
Well, let's add some nuance to this. Okay. First of all, I mean, okay, wait, I'll say this first, because there's two things I want to say. One, can we accept that there are some animals that display higher levels of intelligence than some humans?
Abi, so in that regard, what I'd really like to do is, I know you said the line I'm drawing is arbitrary. I don't think so at all. But it seems like, of course, maybe there is a bit of clarification needed.
Sure.
To
maybe we're not speaking the same language.
Yes, I genuinely think I'm not making I'm not placing an arbitrary line anywhere. I genuinely think so. But maybe that requires a bit of a Zoom conversation.
No, absolutely. It's off topic. It's off topic. No, sorry.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's all good.
Okay.
Sorry.
But no, it's an important area to explore, certainly, in relation to your particular quest. I'd be absolutely. So I'd be really very keen to have that conversation.
Yeah, and because one thing is we talk about love and loving each other. Why stop at humans? Why not love animals as well? I don't think anyone would be comfortable if they just saw someone kicking their dog in the middle of the street.
Oh no, we're not saying that, Abby.
No, absolutely.
I
know you
definitely have your love for animals. The only difference is animals can't display love like us humans in the full sense of the word. There is a clear distinction. The way that humans are made is very, very unique compared to any other living creature. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of ability to show intelligence and to show love to others, I don't think that's relevant in terms of whether or not we should love them. But I agree with what you're saying. According to the Bible, humans were made in a very particular way, so therefore they have a particular status. That's fine according to your worldview. And
Abi, so just to be clear, is your point that we are saying love only human beings, and why don't we cross over to loving animals?
Not you particularly. I'm speaking about conversations I'm having with other people. I'm not saying this about you particularly. I'm just trying to point out something that I think a lot of people ignore. I know in the comment section there was also something, some kind of conversation about eating animals and stuff like that, which I'm very much interested in talking about one day. Maybe not on a stream, but in private.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are
I,
just
I think yes, absolutely. Let's catch up over a Zoom conversation on that too.
Yeah.
But I think very simply put, I think the best way to do this is know that using the things that we are certainly sure about, establishing the existence of God, especially the God of the Bible, and once we have established that, allowing Him to decide on the rest of the morality, because
Sure.
He is the creator, He is the source of the transcendental morality.
Yeah.
And as He draws the line, regardless of whether we have other preferences or not, slightly different preferences, we just stay with this definition or description, if you see what I mean.
And
But we can.
one of the big things as well, Abby, that it speaks in the Bible about how God made humans in his image. So
Yeah.
and we're the only creatures where He has done that. He's not done that to animals. He's not created them in His image. It's only us humans.
Yeah, I understand that. Cool.
Okey-dokey.
All right, lovely. I'll hop off then, and yeah, all the best with the rest of your conversations, and yeah, we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely, Abhi. Lovely to have you back, and we'll catch up soonish.
All right, cool. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
God's blessings. Bye, bye, bye.
So we got AJ. I think it's agnosticism is the best way forward for humanity. That's a very intriguing statement to make.
AJ, by the way, Ray is is AJ is a gentleman who joined us yesterday. The first gentleman with whom we had a conversation of having a structured approach to investigating Hinduism and that sort of stuff. It's lovely to have him here again. Shall we bring him?
Yeah, let's bring him on. The shadow is not too. Let's do that. Hi, AJ.
Hi, Ray. Hi, Arul.
Hey,
how are you? Voice now.
So it's
Good
crazy,
evening.
right? Meaning, after our conversation yesterday, for the first time, I was forced to reach out to a AI tool, which it's an AI research tool, right? Where you can research. So, anyways, I sent you the email, Arul. I sent you the link where I asked the question: is Buddhism older or Christianity? And it gave like thousands of different sources and quotations and summarized it. I did not find even one link where somebody said that Christianity was older. So anyways, that we will keep that for a separate day, because today the topic is atheism and Agnosticism. And by the way, what is agnosticism? It's just staying agnostic to the religion, basically.
Well, technically, it is really a person who hasn't arrived at a particular verdict in relation to God, and he is in search. So
Exactly. But that guy is not denying that there might be God, whereas atheists are saying that, hey, there cannot be any God, like Richard Dawkins, right?
Yeah.
He despises the idea of God. So he's an atheist. So I really think both the ideas, atheism and agnosticism, if you ask me, yes, we can talk about it separately, but would you agree that the current state of the world where we are at right now, what do we need more? We need religion more, or people need to believe Jesus, the existence of it, or fighting about non-existence of it? Or do you think atheism and logic and agnosticism, where it's everybody's journey, everybody's searching and not arriving at a specific answer, is okay?
Right. I'll explain it one way, AJ, is if we believe, for example, either there is no God or we put ourselves in the position that we're maybe on the fence, that we're not convinced enough there's God, to the point where we're not giving any of our attention to searching for a God in the true sense of it, which means we are relying on the world as we know it, the people that live in it, and whatever that offers. The problem we have with that, which really becomes a challenge for us as humans, is there is so much that is so unjust. So you could be a very young person, you get run over by a drunk driver, you lose your life, that's it. There is nothing in the world within humankind alone that can provide any answer to the injustice within people. So it's like a lottery to your life or anyone else's life, whether you have a good life out of it, depending where you're born, who you interact with, and so forth. It becomes really problematic, and as I say, it's just almost like a lottery to whether you're going to have much of a good life. So that's really one of the great issues that we've got if we don't believe there is any intelligence, caring source to all this. It's just what we know, the life that we can live. We're going to also, the fact that we grow old and die, that's the second issue. We have no way of fixing that. There's no, we've already have billions of people lived their lives and died now because we all have a lifespan. And if that's all there is to life, then it's just like begs the question. It just simply doesn't make sense. Why are we even here if it's just what we've got? But what we've got from another perspective is evidence that there must be more to life. We've got much more to offer as human beings. We've got
so it seems like you're just trying to basically, that's meaning some people out of our entire, sorry to interrupt, but that's that half of the, you cannot cope with the fact that there is no explanation for life, a grand
no. So what I'm saying is, it then starts to beg the question that it absolutely warrants a genuine search and answers to the source of life, the source.
Yes, that's totally okay. That's why agnosticism is okay.
Yeah, it can be okay in a sense, but what it doesn't do, it doesn't fix the problem. What it does do is it just stays on the fence saying, okay, we don't know how to solve it. We can't cure growing old and die. We can't cure injustice in life. If you happen to just get 4 years old and you run out wherever and some crazy driver kills you, no fault of your own, just because some other...
Yeah, that does happen all the time. Yeah,
all the time. So there's all this injustice. So if we purely rely on agnosticism, we simply don't have an answer. So what we would say is just take a much more greater step to really search for the source, because we do have evidence of this source. This is why we're here on this stream.
No, that's my problem. That's where I'm having a disconnect. Sorry, is that I don't need an answer. I don't need an answer to explain what's happening in the universe around you, because it's infinite and so many variables are at play. We understand what is chance and probability. All the things come together. Like wind blows, it rains, so there is a chance of flood. And if it rains too much, you will die. Some days it might happen that it will flood, right? So we accept that. To try to explain why the flood came is kind of, again,
but why should you
always be layers forever?
So that's my question. Why should you accept that?
Sorry?
Why should you accept that?
Accept what? That there is no
things
explanation?
Just go as they are. The wind blows. You may have a long life. You may not. It just is what it is. Whatever way the dice rolls, that's your course of life.
I think that's beautiful. I think it shows how infinite. Meaning if you look around us, that it's so.
I can't believe you said that.
AJ, it's a demonstrable fact that the universe isn't infinite.
Again, that's a separate discussion. We need to have a separate, I think, primer discussion of all these different facts that we are.
Without establishing this, our conversation isn't going to be productive. And so here is where I think it's important to define. This is where our structure is very much needed. So you asked earlier, what is more important? I genuinely think only in Jesus Christ, everything that is good comes together. Truth, morality, reason, all of these things come together only in Jesus Christ, without whom we are lost.
And again, I'm even giving you that, I'm conceding, meaning or not conceding, but I'm okay, in fact, with some sort of a moral system for a lot of different reasons, right? Not to explain again that why did I die, and meaning there are some boundaries to where I will where I would like to draw, that what this moral system can explain and what it cannot explain, right? Even though you would like to think that it's God and it's omnipresent and it knows everything, right? For example, why I died also it can explain. I like to keep that aside for a second and just look at Christianity as a moral system and a God as a moral model, like I said yesterday. And if those things make sense and everybody is loving and lives together properly because of those laws and principles laid out by Christianity, I'm okay with that. But again, there is a problem with my coming back to my earlier question, that not everybody is going to listen to you.
No problem at all.
It'd be impossible, right? You know it too. If the fastest growing religion right now in the world is Islam, by far, you know that, right? Statistically, how many churches were built last year in Europe, if you count that in the last decade, versus number of churches built, the mosques, sorry, were way higher. Okay, point I'm trying to make is that despite all this knowledge that has existed and you guys trying to preach, Islam is growing faster, right? So anyways, my point is, I think if everybody just forgets about every religion for a second, I think that's more better for the world. Even though what you're saying might be still right, we can come back to that again. But for a second, we need a reset where everybody agrees on basic things first, rather than trying to straight away explain Jesus and versus.
By the way, you may make a fundamental mistake here. We're not talking about religion. Our aim is not about religion. It's about truth. And if truth, it can be found.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you're going around the houses a bit here. What
No,
we're
I'm not.
saying, let me explain.
Ray, 1 second. So, you know what you're saying, AJ? It's pretty much like, let's say we're part of the same company, same business.
Yes.
We have some issue to sort out.
Okay.
And you are coming in to say, guess what? Let's just throw the CEO out and we'll be fine. Doesn't work like that. You can't just throw people or entities out willy-nilly. You simply can't.
Not really the same. See, that's why. Meaning,
It is. If
I
God
like
is a reality,
no,
if
I like
God
the
is a
analogy,
reality,
in a company, CEO, you literally is a agreement between us that he is the CEO, right? But in this case,
likewise,
God itself is under dispute.
By who? By you.
Yes.
The question, AJ, 1 second. The if God is true, it does not matter if the entire world rejects him, he will still be God.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. Just taking one step back to the situation you were describing of Islam growing. No problem at all, AJ. The biblical prediction is very simple. God is in control. God is in control. Guess what? Watch this space. There is going to be an end, and that end is according to the terms of God of the Bible. It does not matter what anyone does at all. So there is no, you and I don't have to solve that problem. God is in control. The CEO is in control. He knows when to pitch in. It doesn't matter how many rebels show up and so on. Likewise, God is in control. There is no problem at all about it. In other words, maybe you're attempting to solve an issue which we don't have to solve. I guess the point that we need to, in your case, AJ, I'm calling you by your initials. I know your real name, but because you have I don't know if you want the public to know your real name, so I'm going by initials. AJ, the point simply is, for you and for every single individual, it is important for you to get to terms with God. Firstly, in your case, to figure out whether there is a God, and to figure out who it is, if there is a God, and then to get to terms with him. That's the process. How to deal with the world, he knows. There are precise prophecies. God of the Bible knows how to bring about prophecies. When all evidence is contrary, he still makes things happen. No problem at all.
But that's not what I'm like. To your point, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is trying to find my way to the God. Let's just say that I accepted that I'm open to believing in Jesus and all these findings in Bible and all the prophecies and all that, right? So, but I'm going to have a critical way of going about it, meaning I'm going to critique all the things
Yep.
around it, and that's why I think it's a good topic what you have today, which is atheism and agnosticism, because according to me, pretty much I am that. Even though yesterday I said I'm Hindu, that's just because I go by it, my name and my friends, and but if I look inside, it's more agnostic. I am agnostic actually, because
But
my point
what I
is,
would say, AJ, to that is that depending on the distinction of your agnosticism, if you're saying that you're doing it, you're expressing your belief in the way that you are open to, if you like, a genuine case that there may be a God, and that God could be the God of the Bible, that you'll be open to that discussion to see where that discussion goes with the evidence we'll provide.
I am, and that's why we are talking about it. That's why I asked you the question that I asked, that meaning that's a different evidence and all that we can go later. But today's topic was that agnosticism, and that's why I asked whether this is better or that is better, right? And I don't know where you picked up where we had a problem, Arul, when you answered. I forgot where you answered, meaning what were we talking about?
I guess, AJ, if you think you more fit in this stream, i.e. on a Thursday, no problem at all. But I think it is still, the Zoom conversation is still needed, so we have a structured approach. Purely because you have different ideas in mind, I think it is a good idea to structure all of that, especially because you're friendly, and then we can get into the details, AJ. If that's what I suggest that we do.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then we can, if you like, pardon the pun, you can zoom into your specific needs.
Yeah.
Rather than, because obviously we're more trying to cater for the general.
No, it's not need, meaning it's arriving at the truth, and we would rather want everyone know the truth. All the things are on the table. All the.
Sure. But what I mean is,
I think somebody needs a primer. You need a primer. Like, okay, somebody comes to your channel, right? They should watch like these 5 videos first, or 3 videos, or 10, whatever that is, which goes through all these topics that anybody curious like me or this guy before, they need to know some things. Because when if you say blanket statement like, oh, there is evidence, where is it? Did you compare it with who? Is there a video? Can I click on it? So we want to have some things very clear, so that going forward there is no confusion. Everybody knows, as soon as they come to your chat, 5 videos will be ready, the links, that hey, you can go here. Even they can read summaries of YouTube. There is AI now that you can create summaries of YouTube videos. I just have to give the link of the YouTube.
I think you're making some very important points, AJ. Certainly, to make short videos for every worldview we're covering is part of our plan. It's certainly part of our plan. So I think people like you would certainly benefit, just to get an overview of what things we have to present, so they can come and face a particular challenge. Absolutely taken.
So you do not agree that basically that no religion is needed. Meaning, yeah, that's where we stopped. I was saying instead of directly talking about whether we should believe in Jesus, can we peel back and come to some agreement? And that's why I said forget about Jesus for a second. And you said CEO and all these things. The reason I was saying is we need to all as a humanity agree on certain normal things like good, bad, whatever. And
You
then
can't
work out with
agree.
Jesus.
You can't agree on good and bad without God. There is nothing
That's
called good
where
and
we are
bad
having a
without.
little bit of, we need to get deeper into this at some point.
Absolutely. Try. You should try negotiating with a Muslim. You would find out it simply doesn't work, AJ. Very simply doesn't
But
work.
that's
And
how
this is
they
where
say it. And what is the difference?
that is what.
This is exactly what the Muslim guys say too, that if you don't believe in what Muhammad says or whatever their teachings are, there is no question of us going further and talking.
That's not what we are saying, AJ. We're not saying let's begin at the place where you decide Jesus is God. No, what we're rather saying is let's try, essentially, very simply, in your case, AJ, let's come up with a structure in relation to assessing even the entire realm of who is God. Is there a God? Who is God? Is it Jesus? All those things vis-a-vis the rest of the stuff available. But there needs to be some structure in your case.
Not my
In
case.
the case,
Everybody needs it, bro. I can assure you.
yeah, well, let me be honest with you. It's mostly mostly Westerners have a very good framework already. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Indians, unfortunately, like I said, I think even yesterday, I can't remember if it was to you I was saying this, but very unfortunately, the Sanskrit literature came in to muddle things up in India. Prior to that, there was a very sincere effort to have structured thought in India. Sanskrit literature of the likes of Bhagavad Gita came
About
in,
what?
and
About religion or God or in general?
about how to even pursue truth, about questioning what is true, questioning what is right, how do we arrive at these things, and so on. There seems to have been, during Ashoka's time, a concerted effort to define structures in place, but it seems like the
So are you
Sanskrit
saying, sorry to cut you, meaning are you saying that when I said that, hey, this is not just for me, you said that, okay, no, sorry to say that it's Westerners have it down, it's problem with you, okay? So are you saying all these people who are watching your YouTube streams and all these people I see you talking, chatting with in the whatever that People's Corner is do you think they all understand, they have a structured way of analyzing what you're saying and questioning the existence of Jesus versus other religions and all that? No, no way in hell. You're saying that because I
AJ,
think Westerners are usually Christian anyways. What is West?
AJ, there are plenty of assumptions involved here. Can we please do something, please? I think, AJ, plenty of assumptions. I doesn't help in a conversation, especially the live
Because
stream
you're
we want.
making assumptions too. You're saying how my truth-seeking process has been destroyed by Sanskrit and all that. I don't think we can say such things without like proper claims.
Without evidence. I can demonstrate through evidence. I can demonstrate through evidence all the claims that I
And
make.
I just pointed out that a link I have right now, I can chat you, where if you click on it, it's a AI software that compiles all the links which kind of go against your evidence that you pointed out yesterday. So
AJ,
similarly, I have
AJ,
evidence for all those
AJ,
other things.
AJ, please. Very simply put, I don't know where you work, but I don't want to be rude to you. I suggested let's do a structured approach. Comment on the particular link, the particular email that you sent. I can only say you did not listen to what I said earlier, yesterday. I can in our Zoom conversation, when we do have our Zoom conversation, I can play the video from yesterday, and then I can demonstrate you simply didn't listen to my claim. But that's fine. No problem at all. You are new to the field. That's fine. No problem. I can elaborate. But please, once I've offered that we can do that Zoom conversation, please don't make accusations like this. I gave precise details of where the beginning of the writings of the Bible happened. 3500 BC. I gave timeline. Jesus came 2000 BC. Sorry, Jesus came, of course, zero. 500 BC, Ashoka. I gave a timeline. I think because maybe you were engaging with the topic for the first time, maybe you didn't quite grasp all the details. What I suggest, AJ, please, let's sit in a Zoom conversation, because you are a friendly person, and I really think you can reason well. But I think, like many other Indians, unfortunately, awareness of let's say, this is a new area. Such critical thinking based conversations about religion doesn't happen much in India, which is a problem. Through God's grace, I'd really like to start some work there to do that.
Again, you make so many blanket statements, bro. No offense, okay? Same way you said that I picked up something from your conversation and I misinterpreted it, right? I really think that you make a lot of blanket statements which can almost be considered racist, meaning to say we don't have such critical thinking available about other religions and Indians don't do it. If anything, in my real life observation, Indians are the most open to being critiqued about religions and all these things.
Which religion?
Westerners have, or Islam, they just don't have any concept of critiquing. They just
AJ, okay, I disagree.
Anyway, I'm happy to do the Zoom call, but I think we need a public discussion so that others like AJ, I can assure you, there are a billion AJ who would like to hear that conversation where you can falsify the claims I will make. You can make your claims. We can agree on what that Zoom call will be. I will come up with the document and structure, but that needs to be there, out there on YouTube, if you don't mind. I can also upload on my channel. You can upload on your channel. But there needs to be a question of discussion about evidence. Just evidence. We will write that entire video will be about evidence, about, let's just say, 20 different things, all the way from Bible to Gita to all these different things. So that from now on, anybody talks about evidence, they can go and watch that one video, right? We already have it.
AJ, very simply put, please, if you think all of us are fools and you are trying to impose some, not interested.
No, we are not. I'm not at all. I'm interested in a genuine
discussion. Could I finish a point that I am starting right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You are throwing in accusations. Please don't. Evidence is king, and that is what I deal with on a daily manner. On a daily basis, this is what we do. You might not be familiar. That's fine. I'm saying you might not be. I'm not throwing accusations.
Sure.
Clearly, in the way you are speaking, you are demonstrating that you are not aware, and it's a bit surprising, and that you really want. Completely agreed. And that is what I suggested that we are going to do. I don't know why you're becoming a bit paranoid about what needs to be public, what needs to be private, and so on.
Not paranoid. I'm
very simply. Look, AJ, you are a guest. I'd really like to treat you in a friendly manner. Please don't dictate terms. On a meeting by meeting basis, you can see and decide if you want to engage further. I am someone who discusses things openly, publicly, about everything in relation to God. I provide evidence. I've written a couple of books already, and so on, if you want to engage with evidence. But please, instead of treating people with suspicion while you are a guest, please, in a respectable manner, let's take this forward. I'd really like to respect you. I did not throw in accusations about you.
No, I'm
Every
not saying anything like that. Don't worry
sure,
at all. You're not
but
offending me at all.
yeah, what I'm saying is, if
Same
it's
thing I'm saying to you, by the way. I don't mean to offend you at all. It's just that I'm passionate about getting to the bottom of it. That's all I'm trying.
while being passionate, it is very important to engage in a respectful conversation. As suppose, I don't know, I really don't understand why you're talking about the videos have to be public. You
No,
need to record
because
this. I really
a billion other ages can also understand these points,
don't
bro.
worry. You can do what you want. No problem at all. AJ, what I do, what my team does, we decide what we do and we will
Okay,
do.
sounds good.
Please don't dictate terms here. If you enter into a business conversation like this, it won't work. It's as simple as that. Please, I'm suggesting and I'm offering, please, we can have a Zoom conversation and we can take things forward.
Sounds good.
It's yeah. So you're still a very lovely man. I really think I think one of the important challenges we are running into here is the difference in where we are starting, but I don't mind at all. But we can go through some details in a Zoom
Sounds good.
conversation, and then from there.
Yeah, I agree that you are in this field, obviously, right? So you might have some more insight, and I'm clearly formally, meaning I'm investigating on a public platform for the first time, and really being forced to look deep into all these things. So I understand there is a gap. It's like some programmer coming just new to me, and I've been programming for 20 years. So they might have lots of weird questions. I understand the point of view. So
Absolutely. And it is a frank reality that such conversations haven't happened in India. I'm not being racist. It's a frank reality. Whereas in the West, in universities, prominent universities such as Cambridge, Oxford, in the UK, in the US, other similar universities, theologies of various religions have been
you're right.
discussed for centuries. History and theology, which doesn't happen in India. I'm not being racist.
No, you're right. No, you're right about that. I know it because that's why West has separated state from religion. There is a separation of state and religion in West.
And so it wasn't meant to be a racist comment at all. I still identify
No, but
myself
people
as
will think like that. And yes, maybe in the past it was like that, but now I think it has changed a lot. I think we are very open to talking about being questioned.
True. AJ, okay, we'll take this discussion forward. Just a Zoom conversation to define structure, and then hopefully from there we can define the form. But thank you very much.
So nice chatting, bro. Thank you.
Yes, lovely.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
You
Good to speak to you today.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
We have one more gentleman who has been waiting for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Ray.
I see that. Under the name of Google Me. Unfortunately, we have to give people the time to complete their position. So apologies if it means for some to wait a bit of a queue. So I appreciate your patience. We're going to add you to the stage. We just asked for a friendly and cordial, respectful manner, and we'd be very interested to know what your view is. So I'm going to drop you on. If you want to introduce yourself, please do so, and welcome to the stage.
Oh, hello.
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 I didn't realize that it was me. Hi, I'm Craig.
Hi, Craig.
I'm agnostic, but I was raised Jewish until I was 13. I had my bar mitzvah, and then they said you can decide to do whatever you want. But I studied a lot when I was younger, mainly about Islam, because I went to a Jewish school, and that's what you do as a kid. So, well, at my age anyway. But I have a lot of issues because I'm agnostic. So I obviously believe that there could be a God, or that there is a God. I do believe that there is a God. I firmly don't believe in the Abrahamic religions myself. I do believe that of all the religions in the world, they're the most likely. But then I also believe that of the three, the only one that really could be true would be Judaism for me. That also means that Christianity in part could be true too. Obviously, I have to accept that. I mean, but for me, Islam doesn't make any sense at all. But Yeah, and I just find it really difficult that people who read the Torah, or like every week when I was at school, that's what we had to read a passage every week and then learn about it. And it doesn't mention certain things in there, and so I find it really difficult to then go to Christianity. But I
think Craig, I actually think you've got some very valid points there, because when you go through this process, I won't go into my own personal detail at this point, but I went through a similar journey in the sense of introduced to different beliefs. And one of the things I would agree with is when you look at the Old Testament and getting your head around that, I mean, outside of the historical landscape is this whole a sort of underlying kind of storyline where God is getting involved and using nations and events to put his stamp on the world and show his purpose, his justice, mercy, and so on. And you see a lot of storyline through the Old Testament. But what is also amazing, there is some more deeper underlying, if you like, elements in there when you study it that actually reveal a lot more. And when you go, and one of the things that's interesting is we have a stream on Tuesdays, which is looking at Judaism. You might be interested in listening to some of that, because when it starts looking at the specifics about what a Jew believes and how they believe what they believe, it's then interesting where when you bring Jesus into it, who was a Jew and appreciated and respected Jewish.
Weren't they all Jews? Weren't all the apostles Jews? Sorry.
All the apostles, yes.
Yes.
All the apostles of Jesus
I'm
Christ.
just checking. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Craig, can I please ask you a simple question? I think Islam isn't Abrahamic at all. It's a false claim. Unfortunately, there is nothing Abrahamic about Islam at all in terms of religion. Very different. I mean,
other people believe that. They call it the Abrahamic religions. I agree with you. I just think it's copy and paste. We need something similar.
Yeah.
Older stories.
It's a fake.
Yeah,
and can be easily dismantled fairly quickly once you start looking into, as I would say, the detail.
Yes.
Yeah. So exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I find quite hard about Christianity is you've had such a long time, and so many people have questioned it. And I find it's a very different religion to Judaism because Judaism's a race too, so it's very difficult. Half the people in Israel don't consider themselves Jewish. You wouldn't, they're secular. They say they're Jewish, but they don't consider themselves religious, which, most people don't know this stuff. And I find that quite incredible. I would say half of Israel is secular and almost non-believing. That's the way that I look at it. But,
Craig, can I please ask you this way? For me, beginning with the Bible is a very good start. Beginning with the Tanakh is a very good start.
Yeah.
And so let me put it this way. You must be aware that all versions of Judaism today, when they use sources outside of the Bible, they go with sources which are late, post Jesus Christ. You agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, I would say the only sources that you could go to is the original sources. I don't believe in people talking about and then rewriting things. You would go to what's considered the original scripture,
which is the Tanakh. Yeah, so we get to the Tanakh. So you are saying you are an agnostic. I'm a bit surprised because so let me ask you this, please. Is that purely because you haven't explored the Tanakh properly?
I would say I used to get kicked out of school and suspended regularly from a Jewish school for arguing against my rabbis. I mean, one of my claims, which was just to be facetious, really, was something like, obviously Hitler's awful, but I said he just targeted the minorities at the time in the population, and my rabbi didn't like that, obviously. I was trying to say that he wasn't anti-Semitic and he was trying to be smart, just to see, because I enjoyed giving a different point of view, right? But I would get kicked out regularly for that. I find that my main view for being agnostic is I want to say science, something like the Sphinx being 20,000 years old, and nothing in the Bible, the Tanakh, or anything mentions a civilization before before, you know, the main civilizations, let's say. And I don't understand that. It doesn't explain moving huge objects and things like that. So unless there was a book written before that we've then lost, that's where I find it really difficult. And I don't think that science explains everything. That's why I'm agnostic, because you go back to it and all science is pretty much
absolutely.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's guesswork.
Has its limitations. Sure.
Yeah. And every science, the best scientists in the world ultimately will say, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what created us. So
okay, so there are two things involved here. So your comment is essentially the Tanakh doesn't give details of what came prior to, let's say, Adamic family, for
let's
instance.
say some logical things that they wouldn't have known about then that we know about now.
Okay, so let me keep that aside for a moment. In relation to Moses and the beginning of the nation of Israel, do you not consider these to be historical events?
Okay, so my main reason, this is my only argument ever that I say that I believe that of all the religions that I think that Judaism could be the most realistic, is because the story is that he spoke to John in the chat, will say something different, but let's say 750,000 people is what I was told. And God spoke to these people and they heard his voice at the beginning. Apparently, this is what I got told, and a few people, it was too powerful and they died, a few people, and then it changed the way of him giving the message to the people. But for me, that's a great way of showing that thousands of years later, that same tribe still believe, and they still passed it on through generations. So for me, it's like, well, if you are going to tell a story, a good way to do it is to speak to, 500,000 people or whatever. Because if Jesus flew in the air in front of 1 million people, there would be no question. That would be it. It would be game over at the time. It would be a quarter of the world's population have seen a man fly. You could not argue with that, for instance. So for me, it was like they then continued that word on. I think it was then awfully corrupted by man. All men of any religion. I think that men are, that's what I believe.
So that's good to hear, Craig. So I think you're making a few points which are factually accurate there, which is that the nation of Israel unanimously presents its history, especially in relation to Moses and the Red Sea and that sort of stuff. What's that?
That was a better way of wording it.
Yeah, but it's a marvelous point that you're making. It's an unanimous account, and so you are saying you've made another remarkable point there, which is that if you think anything is true, then this must be the case. The Judaism must be. Maybe I should use the term Tanakh. Shall we say Tanakh? Because Judaism has a different connotation.
That's how I was raised. I say it all the time.
Yeah. So now my question is, so you see this as the strongest possibility, clearly, that God interacted with this nation of Israel by the fact of how the entire nation preserved this account and unanimously presents this as their national history. Well, from what you're told,
and what I've learned, that's the story that it's been passed. It could have been changed for all I know.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Sure. So in relation to considering this as the best possibility versus agreeing it is true, where are we? Why aren't you transitioning? What is preventing you from that transitioning?
Honestly, about 10%. I would say.
And what are the hurdles that you have?
Honestly, many with religion in general, not just Judaism, but it's just religion in general. I find really difficult. I find it difficult to see the understanding of why God would make good people suffer. I find it difficult to understand why many of the stories in Judaism itself have predating stories from other religions in the same areas, almost identical, just changing names. You know, and that happens a lot throughout religion, I find. I'm not saying that I understand that they were the first, what's it called? Is it monothesis or one God, whatever, religion, or together with a few others. But they took stories from other different, you know, pagan ideas and things like that, I find.
Demonstrably not the case at all.
No?
No.
Okay.
Accusations.
There's some interesting YouTube videos on it that I've seen about things stories predating Judaism. And they're almost the same stories, just repeated through a different form, I find. Jesus, there's other stories about resurrections, previous deities, or whatever they're called, like deities previous to Jesus, you know, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years. I think it was the Mayans who also had somebody resurrected, and they were praising in one of the Mayan temples. And for all I know, they could be talking about Jesus. For all, you know, that could be true, but they have their own stories that seem to be passed through.
So Craig, can I ask a question? When you listen to a story like that, what do you do to try and validate it, to see whether it's true or not?
Well, I would go onto Google, onto a historical site, something like that, and try and look for evidence for this ancient civilization. Like, I mean, the Mayans is quite simple, isn't it? You can go to the temples and look at the hieroglyphs or whatever they call them. I would presume that there's a lot of strange things in like the Egyptians, that in the Egyptian temples that we're not allowed to explore, and they won't let us investigate. Why not? Don't you think that would give true answers to everyone, every religion? Investigating these things properly. Like the Noah's, like where they found Noah's Ark. You know, you're now not allowed to go there and investigate that. That would be the biggest finding of human life, really. I mean, like it could explain how we originated.
Craig, let me put it this way, please. So you, in relation to the Tanakh, you know, you said the 10% gap, the 10% gap, and you essentially said it's things like similar accounts. I'm assuming you mean something of creation, perhaps something of Noahic flood, perhaps. Those two are what I can think of. Something perhaps akin to Mosaic law, perhaps. So 3 candidates, perhaps.
Sacrificing your son?
Yeah.
I believe that's in quite a few different things. Some sort of sacrificial family member and things like that. That's quite common amongst.
What I can say, Craig, in every one of these areas, it's demonstrably true that Tanakh did not get it from anywhere else. Assertions have been made, accusations have been made, but research has been done, and we see that this is demonstrably not the case. For instance, I'll give you a simple example. In relation to creation, of course, the Bible gives an account of creation. You have Babylonian myth on creation. We have Babylonian, meaning in this case Sumerian myth. You have Egyptian myth. You have a few other myth. Now, things could be studied, and similar to that, even the flood account. There are a few different comparable accounts, should we say. You can study them in detail, and you can see that the Bible does not actually borrow anything from any of these at all. The Bible is very clear in relation to being the first account to present a context, present a reason, and present a next step in relation to the worldwide flood during the time of Noah. There are hearsay accounts elsewhere, mostly which post-date the biblical accounts, but with no well-defined format to them. Context isn't described, reason isn't described, post isn't described in precise terms to explain what really happened. Only the Bible does. Only the Tanakh does in this particular scenario. So this is where I'm at loss of words, where where the 10%. Why that?
What about the other things? What about some of the stories in the Bible? I don't, or in the Tanakh, I don't agree with. I think morally they're right. I think that morally, to make yourself try and kill your son in the name of God, even if you know that nothing's going to happen to him, morally it's almost, you could almost tell that that's written by a human. In my eyes, that's the way it feels. It's because that was the morality at the time, and the violence and things like that. I personally don't believe, from what I know of the world, that a God would do those things. I almost believe that Jesus is closer. His actions would be closer than the original gods, Hashem. Does that make sense? Because at least Jesus was trying to do good things with, and he was saying, I'm dying for other people's sin. This is a God telling you to kill your son. I mean, I don't know if your dad is, or sons are, I saw your daughter before. Can you imagine? Can you honestly say you would do it?
Here is where context matters, Craig. Here is where context really matters. Note carefully, to Abraham, God had given a promise based on that son.
I understand that, and I still wouldn't be able to do it.
And I don't think Abraham was able to, in Abraham,
because of his belief, really.
It's no. Let's not conflate.
That's not true. Actually, I can't say that, because if God spoke to me in front of me, and
exactly,
I knew it was God, that's different.
Yeah. In other words, you're conflating different ideas here. For Abraham, he knew for sure 100%. He knew God personally. He knew the promise personally, and so on. And it is also true, he genuinely did not, it wasn't easy for him to. But he knew, well, there is a plan based on this guy. So I don't know what is happening here. Something has to happen where he'll return. Don't know how.
I just believe that my impression of a God is that there's better ways to do things throughout the Tanakh, multiple ways of doing things. Why didn't he just show the Pharaoh?
Show what?
Show the Pharaoh he was God. Nobody has to die. Show
the 10 plagues.
Moses is there. Just show. No, there's other ways of showing, and you know that. Today you can speak to 2 to 10 million people at one time. God could have shown the whole world instantly. This is what I don't get.
Craig, let me put it this way, Craig. If you for this,
I would like to believe more. I would.
For this illustration to. For this illustration, did you say you'd like to really believe? Is that what you said?
I would like to believe more. I'm very jealous of people who have strong faith. Very jealous.
Sure. Craig, I'll essentially give you an illustration right now, please. And the illustration is this: you are, and for this for you, I'd really like you to empathize with the illustration. You are going to be a character in this illustration, so I'd really like you to take the role seriously. Okay. Let's say there is a kingdom. This kingdom is called Kingdom of Craig. In Kingdom of Craig is a lovely king. He is the king. Clearly, he is the king, and he's a lovely man. He is, good-hearted, kind, takes care of everyone, protects them properly, supplies for them, all sorts of things. He's lovely in every single manner. And but there are a few most of the people are happy with you, and there are a few troublemakers. One of whom say, "Hey, who is this?" One of a commoner doesn't have the moral standing to do what he does, but he does this anyway. He says, "Hey, who is this Craig fellow? Bring him on. If he is really king, let him come out of his palace, stand in front of me, and say, 'I am Craig. I am the king.' And unless he does that, who is this fellow? I'm not going to respect him." And he walks around, goes around, and so on. To this person, would you show yourself?
Yeah. Me personally, yes. If I was there, if I'm the king,
Me personally,
I'd be kind. This is the whole point. That you literally have nothing to do. If there's the one person and you're actually doing your best, I'm Craig, I'm the king. I'm doing my best for all my people. This person's obviously having a tough time. From what we know now, he's obviously struggling. Everybody else is happy. Let's help him.
But you might. So maybe here is where maybe you're trivializing human mindset here. You're describing the person I am talking about, who is challenging you, as someone who is having some sort of a trouble. Some sort of a trouble. He's troubled. I am saying he is a troublemaker. He does not want to have authority. He does not like authority. He doesn't care about authority. Goodness, he couldn't care less about. His parents, he doesn't even respect. And this is the kind of person. In other words, the problem with him is not that he doesn't have enough information. The problem with him is that he doesn't care. He doesn't even though he has perhaps enough information, he doesn't care, he doesn't want.
Okay.
And that is the person who's saying, let Craig show up. Let me try and see.
How do we deal with those people in society today?
Let them, go around life, do their stuff, and
You
get
speak
to
to most of them daily. You speak to many of them daily.
Sorry, what?
You speak to many of them daily.
Not really. No. If you are you thinking about the people at Speaker's Corner? Is that what you're suggesting? It's not true, really, Craig. People at Speaker's Corner, very unfortunately, are subjected to a system of indoctrination.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but when you have access out of that indoctrination and you refuse to use it, then you're to blame as much as the person who indoctrinated you.
Absolutely. And so here is where, with the conversations I have an assessment. Sometimes it's really genuinely to interact with the person standing in front of me. Sometimes it's for others who might be actually genuine, who are caught up in the system, for them to see the folly of the system. Somehow the interactions are happening for someone to benefit. Even if it is not the person in front of me, at least the others. So that's the intent with which I go there. But can we please agree? Look, you have agreed already. You have agreed already that when in the case of troublemakers, it doesn't make sense perhaps to, in this particular example I gave, if he is a genuine troublemaker who doesn't respect, then it's not a good idea for you to show up.
I would kick him out of my kingdom.
Very, very good idea. And I completely agree with that. And that is precisely my point. In other words, just because someone is suggesting that, well, I don't know if this is true, it does not mean he is a sincere seeker. And when someone isn't sincere, and if he's a rebel, he doesn't care, God doesn't have to show up. He doesn't have to show up. God is not going to show up to everyone willy-nilly, because not everyone, trust me, I have been meeting people for many, many years, around 15 years now, a little bit more perhaps. And I know rarely I do come across very sincere seekers. But most of the time, people who couldn't care less, who doesn't want to hear, this is the kind of people we run into, unfortunately. But we still try to work with them. try and see if there is a system of indoctrination sort of influencing. But long story short, with the Pharaoh, I genuinely think if the Pharaoh seeing 9 plagues, not the 10th one, but the 9 plagues, if he wasn't going to get to terms with the fact that there is a God, well, I don't consider him to be a sincere person.
Okay, but what about the Egyptian people? They were sincere. Some of them must have been sincere, for instance.
Some of them, you're completely right. And this is where the details matter. If you go through the Torah carefully, you'd find out that actually when the nation of Israel left Egypt, Exodus, on their way to Canaan, there were plenty of non-Israelites who were with them, a mixed multitude.
Ah, yes, I do know this. Yes.
Yes. So whoever, long story short, very simply,
they took other slaves, other non-Jewish slaves as well, no?
Yeah. Here is where note carefully the details of the 10th plague. In the 10th plague, God was going to save people not based on ethnicity, although his target was certainly to save Israel, but he was going to save people based on obedience to a simple instruction of the Passover.
Yeah.
You could be an Egyptian, and if you did, you could be saved. And so the point is, in other words, to address your point, those who would have had a sincere heart would have been saved. Note carefully also, the vast majority of the, I don't know, I shouldn't say vast majority, to implement a system of slavery, such as what Israel was under in the nation of Egypt at that time, it is not possible with only the Pharaoh doing it.
Oh, yeah,
He clearly should have had a wide support, and this is where you find how slave masters were, beating Israelites up and all sorts of similar details. In other words, judgment to me in that situation seems to be appropriate, seems to be commensurate with what was happening, and so on. So, long story short, Craig, I really, really think the Tanakh, when I go through the details with all the details, and this is where you need to go get the information from the Tanakh, and every little detail matters. Yeah, I see a top quality morality, top quality revelation right the way through.
I have multiple friends who went to yeshiva through their choice. They just went to yeshiva for 2 of them went for 4 years, something stupid. But I find that incredible. I mean, what's the equivalent of that in Christianity?
Well, Christianity began as a communal movement. If you read the book of Acts, you actually find that. I mean, the equivalent of that today in Christianity, I would say, if you are aware, most of the leading charities, most of the leading good-natured businesses were set up by Christians for good causes.
No, I get that. I meant, so yeshiva's like the university, and all the kids, all they do is study Tanakh, and then they argue about the Tanakh and the Talmud all day, every day. That's what they do. And I don't get me wrong, you do it. You've researched there's multiple people online who do it. I just find that there's not really a place for it. And I don't understand why in somewhere like the UK, we should be having universities. It's a Christian country, isn't it?
Well, Cambridge, Oxford began like that. With the Cambridge, Oxford, the departments of theology were initially Christian in nature, and of course today they study other religions too. But certainly with the idea of evaluating all religions properly, but with the Christian worldview very firmly rooted. But Craig, I'd really like to invite you to engage in a journey of going through the Tanakh. Actually, sometime rather soon, we are going to do some sort of a Bible exploration, program for sincere seekers. I'd really like to perhaps, for you to consider that. It'll be lovely. I genuinely think, you agree right now, the interaction with Pharaoh is appropriate. Based on the details.
There's a lot of things that I speak about because I a lot of things I studied 20 years ago. And and since I sort of made my mind up when I was a kid, I was like, okay, I've made my mind up and that's it. I'm more than happy to go back and look at multiple things, because how else do you learn? I mean,
exactly. We'd really like for you to go on this process of going through this. Maybe at that time we weren't there, certainly. So with you,
no, but you're not quite as bad as some preachers, I would say. No, but some are very much they're in your face, and they're like, "Well, no, you're wrong," and then that's it, and then they're rude, and I'm like, "Well, that's not how you exactly. It's not how you approach a conversation with somebody who tries to be. I tried to be understood. I grew up in London. Do you know? I mean, like it's the multicultural city of the world. For me, it's insane. I find it incredible, the whole way I grew up, and I was accepting of everybody. I never looked at anybody differently, because then they look at me differently, and so it's like, well, that's not how you live. And I don't know, it's changed a lot recently, but actually the first 20 years of my life I found London to be very nice and accepting, and find it's changed a lot recently. But anyway,
but Craig,
let me know when the show is.
Well, could you please give us, I mean, if you're willing, if you maybe give your email address, we could follow up.
Should I put it in the private chat?
In the private chat, please.
Yes. Indeed.
So it'll be lovely to go through. I genuinely think the Bible is very, very, very deep, very solid morally. In terms of everything.
I think the whole world should live by Judeo-Christianic values or and things like that. Even if I'm not, like I said, I'm not a full believer, I still believe the world is beneficial from those views and morals, definitely.
Yeah. It'll be lovely to have a conversation. So fantastic.
Take care.
Take care. Lovely to see you. God's blessings.
Thanks a lot, Craig. I appreciate your patience for holding on for so long. I was glad you did. So it's been a good constructive conversation, so thank you.
Yeah, this is Costa Rica thunderstorms. So.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you.
That was a good good conversation. Appreciate your place here on this hour, because there's been they're quite complex, some of these discussions, so appreciate your support. Not easy at all, and especially when people from one contrasting element where they're probably overcomplicating themselves to somebody who's really genuinely seeking but has many obstacles in their way, which it's great they're coming here, because I think we can definitely help break those barriers and get to reveal the true God that made everything, and have answers to these key questions for sure.
Absolutely, it's lovely. I mean, in my experience, especially with the ethnic Jews, in my experience, even those who start off as agnostics in a conversation, in half an hour, in 1 hour, change their stance rather quickly, and that's for a simple reason. For ethnic Jews, the religion or the Tanakh is so integrated with their history. It's so integrated. It's so integral to their history that it's hard for them. It's really hard to make sense of an Israel without the Tanakh. So I think it makes it a lot simple. Ray, can I please take this opportunity to request? There are plenty of people in the chat. I see many different views. Certainly, I see Senapati Sen. I think we spoke, or I addressed you yesterday to Neil Kamal, and so on. Sound Indian in your names. Please engage with us on the day when we are doing Indian religions. Please come on board. Let's get to some serious conversations. If you are a non-Christian, maybe an atheist, agnostic, Ray, what do you think? Did you want to?
I did have a quick skim through while you were having some chats. there was a lot. I couldn't see anything really obvious. Certainly, there was a bit about the Muslim faith, and some bits just being very sort of not too convinced of the Christian faith without really highlighting their own position. So it'd be interesting if any of those that are listening in, please put a comment to be clear about what your position is, because if it's more about that you don't believe in God or you're struggling to believe there's a God, this is the stream to come on. So we do welcome you on. Otherwise, I haven't really seen, although I've not scrolled through in detail, but just a skimming through. That was kind of the gist I got. There were one or two unsavory comments, but not going to entertain those, of course. But there's been a few back and forth. Cherokee's been doing a bit. FG is doing, but they're both doing their bit, which has been great. So that's nice. And in fact, we've had our brother Darren chipping in a bit as well. I see.
Yeah. And did you want to spend some more time on the stream, or did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, it's getting quite late. So maybe to wrap up, unless somebody really give the next minute to, if somebody wants to quickly, because there was a chap who just appeared with his headphones. He actually does look familiar for some reason. Don't know why. He was on the stream about 5-10 minutes ago, but he's jumped off. I don't know if he wants to come back on. Otherwise, if anybody wants to jump on, we give him a minute or two. Otherwise, maybe we'll wrap up otherwise.
Absolutely. Okay, can I please address Senapati Ray here? So, Senapati, that's lovely to hear. So you're saying you go to church, believe in the teachings of Jesus, but I have an issue with the Abrahamic exclusivity. Could I please recommend to you, God loves all. God is the God of everyone, but there is only one God. By nature of who He is, He is exclusive. And so if you're struggling with that, it'd be lovely to have a conversation, but of course it doesn't fit into any particular stream at the moment. So please, if you could email info@operationstephen.org, which we'll bring up here. Please, if you could email, I'd really like to have a proper discussion with you and maybe take things forward from there.
The only thing I've seen is a chap called, the name of EUFFACC. Not quite understanding what he's saying here, but I'm Christian. Jesus is king, but not God.
Again, EUFFACC. Perhaps a good place for you is Monday. We can maybe go through some of the ideas you have, because there we particularly deal with people who use the Bible to come to conclusions. So most welcome to join there. On essentially, for those who are new, we do these streams Mondays to Thursdays currently. We're soon going to have a Friday edition too. But please, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you should see details of which particular worldviews would be entertained on each of the days. For anyone who considers Jesus, the Bible seriously, Mondays. For Nibble Nibble, you're most welcome to join on a Wednesday, because you are a Muslim. For the people, the many Indian friends who are in the stream, most welcome to join. I'm assuming you many non-Christian Indian friends, most welcome to join on Wednesday again. Whether you are a Muslim or you follow some of the Indian religions, most welcome to join. EUFFACC, Mondays, 8 p.m. London time, we start the stream. And when we begin the stream, we at the on YouTube on the live chat at the top we have a link. You can click on the link, provide appropriate details, and then you can get to our backstage. You might be in a queue, and at the appropriate time we'd let you onto the stage and we can have a discussion. So that's the process. At the top of the live chat on Monday, there would be a link. Click, enter in appropriate details, and then you can join on stage, on the backstage, and then we'll pick you up from there, from the queue.
Yeah. Cool. I think on that note, I don't think anyone is going to join. But thank you for all those who've been patiently watching through and making some great comments and participating in your own way. And big thank you for all those who've been watching or will watch the stream when they get a copy once it's posted on YouTube. There has actually been quite a few people who have expressed their interest, not so much maybe joining live because it might not be convenient. And I think one of the things that's great, I've got a few contacts, is that we may be starting to get quite a few popular number of people from the US, because there's quite a few interests that have come my way from friends I know, and they've been asking me about these streams because I've obviously dropped the pennies about what we're doing, and they're all very excited about it. So how do we join? I said, well, we can't really, it's this time of night, blah blah blah, but they definitely want to at least watch it. So yeah, it's great to get more people interested. As soon as I say that, we have somebody just jumping into the backstage.
Yeah. Jaden, could you please? Hello, Jaden. Could you please describe your worldview in the private chat?
Let's type that in.
Hello. Please, if you could let us know your worldview. It would be lovely. Are you an atheist, or an agnostic, or you're a Christian? Okay. Lovely. Perhaps what we can do is, Ray, if there is no one else, I am Christian. Jesus is not God.
Okay. let's have a quick chat with him for a minute, and just
Sure.
I got a feeling I know what's going on here. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just for a quick minute. Hi, Jaden.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, but I was gonna say that
Are you, by the way, are you EU FFACC?
Yes, I am. I always watch that room. I'm a big fan. I always watch you on Speaker's Corner. But I always wondered, like, how can Jesus be God? I also question, but I read the Bible and stuff, but I saw, man, it says that he's the Son of God. It never says, yeah, he is God. We have to be truthful with ourselves. We can't
Can I
lie
ask
with ourselves.
Jaden?
Because people laugh at us about 3 gods and laugh at us. We feel like fools. They laugh at us to say we have 3 gods. But Jesus is the Word. You know, if we read John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God.
So where were you getting your information to determine whether Jesus is God or not?
I was reading in the New Testament, and I always watch the videos. Like even Bob in that role says he is God.
So do you have a particular faith you follow or church you go to or anything?
I don't follow church. I am the church. I read the Bible and stuff like that.
Okay.
Jaden, could I like I recommended? Can we have this discussion? But you believe in a God?
Yes, I believe in God, and I worship Jesus, but not Jesus is not God. I worship Him. I worship Him as the Word, and I know what the Holy Spirit is. It is here on earth, like for us. gives us wisdom and stuff like that.
Sure.
know.
Can we please recommend the appropriate stream for you is on a Monday?
Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
Monday is when we go through what we call unbiblical churches. We consider, we heard what you said. We consider your idea to be unbiblical, but
So
we can
but the Bible never say he is God at all.
we'll check that out on a Monday.
On Monday, no? On Monday.
Yeah, we do Mondays. So please set an
what time?
alarm.
So what time Monday? So what time Monday?
Monday 8 p.m. London time is when we start.
Okay, I'm in South Africa, so it will be 9 a.m. by me, no?
In South Africa, it should be sort of similar time, plus or minus maybe 1 hour.
1 hour.
8 p.m. by the way.
Okay.
Let me quickly find out. South Africa time. You only have one time zone there? It is GMT +2. So you're 1 hour ahead of us. So 9 p.m. for you.
It's 9 p.m.
9 p.m. on a Monday is when we start the stream.
Okay.
But we might have a queue when you join, and we'll let you in essentially on a first come first served basis.
Okay, no problem at all, man. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Ray. I'll see you guys Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
guys.
the gentleman who leads on a Monday is a South African gentleman, Greg.
Okay.
So I'm sure he's going to appreciate your accent, and he's going to maybe get some feelings for. He may even. Yeah. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't say that. Yeah, it'll be lovely to catch up on a Monday.
No problem at all. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye. God's blessings.
Okay. I think that is time to wrap up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Ray, let's do that. I mean, today, what did we have? We had AJ join, and hopefully we'll have a Zoom meeting with him and then take things forward from there. We had lovely Craig join, and hopefully we can take that forward too.
And a continued progressive conversation with Abby, which is nice.
Yeah, Abby. Yeah, that's right. And I'm sure Abby is going to drill me.
Yes. Good luck with that one.
Yeah. Sounds good. There were a couple of other, the David, hopefully he comes back with particular details next Thursday, hopefully, where he is able to distinguish between speculative ideas, theories proposed versus reality. So hopefully that'll happen. But other than that, I think we had a productive conversation, didn't we, Ray? I shouldn't say other than that, but including all those.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been good. Definitely been good.
Sounds good, Ray. I'm happy.
Cool.
Should we wrap up?
Yeah. Do you want to just close in prayer?
Yeah, cool. Shall I pray? Father, thank you for this time. Lord, you are God. There are people who are caught up in all sorts of ideas away from you. But you want people to come to you. You have demonstrated your love for human beings through giving your own Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior, God, Son of God, who came down to the face of the earth and laid down your life for us, Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful love. But many people are not yet aware, very unfortunately, or haven't made their decisions, very unfortunately. But we pray that through your Spirit, Lord, that there would be more opportunities for all of these people, especially for the people who jumped on the stream tonight. Lord, David, AJ, Craig, and now I forget his name already. Sorry. The young man who Jaden, and I think there was someone who was here before David, Can't remember who that was. But Lord, we pray for everyone who came here. Lord, we pray that through your Spirit, Lord, that you would convince them that they should pursue all the challenges that were brought to them, and pursue their conversations with us or with other Christians. And Lord, take the subject seriously and try and evaluate evidence and arrive at your feet. Your love is great. The moment all obstacles are removed, I'm pretty sure when they come to you, they won't leave you ever, because of the great love that you have for human beings. So please help, Lord, take care of everyone. Lord, every Christian who has supported us, every brother and sister who has supported us from the live chat tonight, every non-Christian friend from different worldviews who have showed up in the live chat, we pray, Lord, that through your Spirit you might help them. Help us, Lord, we pray. Ultimately, we want everyone to become Christian, because Jesus is the only true God. Jesus as one of three persons of the triune God, Jehovah, Jesus, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So we'd really like people to come to you, receive you, enjoy the goodness that is in you, accept the solution for their sins, for our sins, and have their eternity secured. Take care of all things, Lord. Please bless everyone. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Amen.
Take care.
Praise the Lord. Thank you. Take
Bye.
care, everyone.